Welcome to 5 and On Podcast. I am your host, Shane Hazen, and for our year-end special, Ted Haycraft is with me.
Yes, I'm back from the dead.
And
glad to be here.
And manager Showplace in Mazith, Aaron Smith.
Hello again, Shane.
Hello again, Aaron Smith. Smith, you don't want to explain what the Richard Lester dinner, why this is called the Richard Lester dinner. Ted, I don't know if I want you to explain why.
What about this? Just put it this way: there are it's my fault that when we get together, we always end up with Jack Kirby, Warren Beatty, Richard Lester, and Sergio Leone.
That was always the original.
That was
actually going to be
Bob Dylan, and then now Shane just walks out when Bob.
That was originally going to be the name of this podcast. How long does it take for Warren Beatty, Bob Dylan, or Sergio Leone to be brought up?
And I had this really good point I want to make about Richard Lester and the history of cinema, and these guys will not come to terms with me on this.
Cutting back before, whenever I used to not live in Evansville, I would come back from Austin and we'd all get together right before I'd leave. Usually we'd stay out all night at IHOP and we'd usually catch up mostly on our year-end list, and inevitably those figures would come up.
Right.
And inevitably we would argue with your love of Richard Lester that
he the modern music video starts with him. It's kind of
the godfather of the modern music video. The modern music video does not exist without Richard Lester. Sometimes is what I feel like.
Yes, I think I'm still going to stand by that.
Yeah. See, I'm bringing this up like I want to get into this argument, and I don't, because we've done it so many times, and we've never.
Well, yeah, but it's down to the cartoony points where you guys are just being obstinate for the sake of it.
No, we came to our conclusion really a long time ago.
Clear heads about it.
Oh no!
And trying to really listen to what I'm saying. And
are you going to come up with a new point? Is Richard Lester going to direct another promotional video that we didn't know about that we're going to suddenly say, egad, you're right?
And like again, I'm not going to say I have we're going to agree that MTV is like be all end all of anything. But they actually gave him, a trophy, an award for the very first.
You should see the like office Jim from The Office looks Aaron Smith is giving me. He's just shrugging and looking over at me.
Anyway,
we like Richard Lester, Ted.
Okay, I know. Okay, I hope. I know, but I think it's an interesting point to roll around and inspect. But right. I guess we won't do it here.
All right. No, we're here to do our top 10 lists, but these episodes go long. So as much as I want to hear what you guys have been seeing recently, I have one movie I've been wanting to rant about for a while. And I'm pretty positive neither one of you have seen it. Because Smith, you no longer work at Showplace. Despite my intro, you work at Showplace Newburgh now.
That is true.
Yeah. And Ted, the other thing we bug you about is you don't like horror, or you are not as eager to see new horror movies.
Yeah, well, no, I love. Again, you guys, that's another long running.
Okay, fine.
No, but I love cinema. Period.
That's a subtitle of this.
As opposed to you guys who don't like cinema.
But I want it to be. I'll see any genre out there, but I want it to be good and have some quality to it. So that there's
the inference there being that horror is consistently not.
There's
a
lot of
good.
Horror films that I'm sure some of our friends would argue this with me, but they're a dime a dozen.
We sympathize with you on this just because obviously horror fans are often, I don't know how nice way to say it, aggrandizing of the values of some of these movies, or they have different things they want out of these movies sometimes.
Right.
They're the really hardcore horror fans. But the movie I saw was Skinamarink. Have either of you guys heard anything about this?
Not till I saw a really interesting write-up on Facebook. Somebody was really going on. No, it might have been a Variety review.
That may make sense.
Or somebody wrote about how they were surprised to see this even in the theater.
This is by far, I was thinking about it because I don't know. It goes back to even the Tri-State Cinema Society days when Tri-State Cinema Society would play stuff at Showplace. This is the most art house, avant-garde thing I have seen at Showplace cinemas ever. It was. So the movie is about the basic plot, even though I had to read the synopsis to understand it after seeing the movie, is that these two kids wake up, their parents are gone, and the windows are gone in their house, and there's a boogeyman talking to them. And the way it's shot is with the movie's I think 82 minutes, and there's probably 15 shots of human beings in this movie. The rest of it's just angles of different parts of the house.
Are you
in the
spoiling
TV.
it by saying that, giving us?
No, there's so little incident in here to be spoiled. It's, I mean, there's
Because I have to admit you have me intrigued. I think it was your stuff on Facebook. I read.
No, I have
there was
not.
a review.
I have not
this.
talked about this on Facebook because here's the thing. I've made a point on this show. I don't want to talk negatively about movies. I don't want to talk negatively about like lower budget movies, but I wish I had been firmly prepped for this because this thing was one of the most hard to get through movies I've seen all year just because the boogeyman aspect and the avant-garde aspect do not gel well together. And it's a very low budget movie. And one of the things that the movie does is the kids go downstairs and they turned on a Max Fleischer cartoon. So the Max Fleischer cartoon is the entire content of the entire movie. It plays non-stop.
And those will make it pretty druggy. Max Fleischer cartoons.
Very much so. But my problem was I saw the seams throughout all of it. Like, one thing I've been wanting to talk to anybody about. Okay, I think I've mentioned to you guys in editing, there's a technique you can do. If you want a shot to go on indefinitely without feeling like there's a cut, what you'll do is you'll take, say, like a 30 framed clip of something, and then you will duplicate it, put it next to the other one, and then reverse that one. So when you get to the end of the first clip, it starts back at that point, goes to reverse, and you can loop those clips indefinitely over and over. So Skinamarink has this, it takes place in 1995, but it has this look where it's supposed to feel like a grindhouse movie from the 70s, and it's got this film grain thing. And what I could tell after, I don't know, 5 minutes of watching the movie is that they had the grain effect on top of it that only lasted 5 seconds, and it looped back and forth, and I was so bored with this movie. I started looking for different spots of film grain to appear every 15 to 20 seconds in the exact same spot.
Well, this is weird. Your exuberance about talking about it makes you want to see it.
That's what I was thinking. I want to see it even more now.
But yeah, you're really jogging it.
Your experience is intriguing.
Well, that's the thing is I wish you guys had seen it just because, and like, again, part of the philosophy of not wanting to talk negatively about a movie is like, I don't want to talk someone out of liking a movie. So I don't see the point in dogging on something. But this movie, like,
this review or whatever I read,
I just walked out quickly when I was done with this movie.
I think bouncing it off of Eraserhead. Like if you had been there, saw Eraserhead when it was in the initial run.
The big problem with this, like, okay, David Ehrlich. When I got into it, David Ehrlich had a line. This isn't the exact line. I'm putting two of his lines together, but it's basically if someone had made a slow cinema version of the last shot of Blair Witch Project. Yeah, and that sounds great, and that's what I was kind of like intrigued by. I figured like it was going to be an artier Paranormal Activity, and the issue is that I just felt like the gimmick took over. And even as arty and obtuse as it was, the gimmick just took over.
Well, let me ask you this: if this is an interesting, your reaction is very interesting. Do you think this is it one film? Is it one filmmaker, couple filmmaker? Is it?
It's one filmmaker. I'm unfamiliar with. Like, I think it's the first.
Do you think he's got a future? Is there something that you see that? But wow, maybe he'll run with this and make something out of it. Like obviously, like when Aronofsky dropped down. Pie was just amazing. Yeah, you knew something. This guy's going somewhere. I guess you probably thought that when you saw Eraserhead, possibly.
Well, that's my argument against it. I hope he has a career, but this thing is very, very one note for 82 minutes. Like you get it quickly, and it's from a Cinemax standpoint. I had no clue what was going on, but which I mean, sure, from an experimental standpoint, is maybe a plus, but. I just wanted to talk to somebody about this.
Well, it's only, if you say it's only in 82 minutes, it's intrigued.
I thought the same thing. 82 minutes, short and sweet.
It is distinctly the weirdest thing I've seen.
And weird. That sounds great.
We already have a little expectation built into us that we know that we can probably get through it better than you did. Maybe
if someone had prepped me for it, I would have been better off. Yeah.
Well, would you categorize it as a standard horror film, or is it even? In that end of the spectrum,
like, the boogeyman aspects don't work. Here's the way I would say it: as a boogeyman plot, I think it doesn't work. As a narrative, I don't think it works. The last 3 minutes of the movie, when I was like, I think I finally see the finish line, I was ready to get up. I kind of had this idea that maybe it works and is amazing as a 4-year-old's nightmare.
That sounds great, Shane.
Aaron and I saw we're ready to go see it.
So maybe I'm hopefully getting out of this without being too negative. And
you just read yourself.
maybe I'm doing my job in selling the movie. So. Are we ready to move on to our list? This is our third year in a row doing this, and when you sat down, you were like, "Should I have gotten a list?"
Maybe I was so maybe I was so traumatized last year that I had such a good thing going, and then I kind of got the execution kind of.
So you're like, I had a good thing going. I'm not going to do it again this year.
No, seriously, I didn't really. I guess I needed to be reminded that I needed a definitive list, but I do have something that basically that blew me away. That pretty much overshadows anything on the list I can make. Maybe.
All right, so what I want to do is we can go as high as we want. I want to get through this fast, especially up until we get to our top 10. So we can go as high a number as we want. But what I also want to do is if we mention a movie and someone else has it higher on their list, you don't have to say what number it is. We will wait until the highest number. That's when we'll talk about it. Does that sound good?
Okay.
All right, Ted.
It was really between you two guys. I'll just let me follow your leads, and I get my notebook here in front of me.
Okay, I'm gonna try to start in my top 20, but the thing is, like my 25 through 20, I can run through really quick, and I was just like, they're just interesting stuff. Or actually, 26 through 21. 26, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. 25, This Place Rules. 24, Senior. 23, which I just saw today off of Aaron Smith's recommendation.
Wait. Slow down. This Place Rules.
This was an HBO documentary made by this Instagram guy who followed the January 6 riots and built up to it. Have you heard anything about this, Smith?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you seen it?
No, not yet, but it's definitely on the list.
Okay, and then Senior, the Robert Downey Sr. doc, which is great. What I just saw on 23 today, based for Aaron Smith's recommendation, All Quiet on the Western Front. 22, I'm curious if you saw it. Hustle, which I think Adam Sandler. I should also mention, we're doing this the day before the Oscar nominations.
Right, and of course, right now, or right away, I'm just kind of disqualified here altogether because everything you've mentioned so far is streaming.
Every year it gets worse and worse as more streaming movies become the more significant thing. The more your unwillingness to have streaming services in your house.
But, it's. I know. I'm just
because you know what my 21 is, and I'm done with it. Is just going to really just make this point perfect. Kimmy, the Steven Soderbergh movie from this year. Steven Soderbergh's where it always hits you, isn't it?
I know because there's about 4 or 5 Soderberghs.
Because he has that deal with HBO.
Well, even some of anything on Netflix, the things of sports.
Hustle.
Anyway, I don't. Everybody. When I tell people I don't have internet at home, and therefore I don't have streaming, everybody is just like shocked. But as Aaron can attest, I see almost most of my movies in the theater. I make a point to go to the theater and see them on a big screen, and I like to collect. I like to have hard copies, so I have to wait. Hopefully, that'll be a hard copy eventually.
I just find it funny that you will, and I'm in the same vein where I will drive a long distance to go see a movie, but you will not spend the $10 to get a streaming service into your house.
Well, there's how much a month on the internet, and then I don't know. I mean, it is a weird thing. I can't defend it.
Well, I can actually, Ted. I'll defend it for you, and I'll say this. I do have streaming, so I have all the streaming services like Disney, HBO, Hulu, Netflix, and my experience of watching a lot of these films and a couple that you mentioned, I did have higher than you, Hustle and All Quiet on the Western Front. I definitely thought we're somewhere in the teens, maybe not quite top 10.
We can hold off on talking about them.
Certainly, well, we don't necessarily have to, but the point I wanted to make is that because they were on streaming, I'm not sure I gave them the attention that I would have given them.
So true. I paused if I go to see that movie so many times.
Yeah, and for me, it's there's Doritos. And now I have to go to the restroom, and now I have a eBay auction that's ending.
It's always the worst. Where I'm literally like, "Where's my phone? My phone's next to me."
I really tried to not do that, but right. And
totally.
Ted probably wouldn't have that same distraction. I don't think he's attached to his phone the way that you and I are.
Yeah.
But that's the concern that I have with seeing most of these movies on streaming is that I don't give them the attention they deserve.
I mean, it's. I'd rather watch a Netflix movie in a theater. I'd rather watch it with people around, so like I feel the obligation not to pause, and I can pay less attention.
Or hold your pee.
Oh, I'll stop that. All right, who wants to go? I just want to get through a first list right away. Who's next? Ted?
I don't. I mean, I'm looking. Like I said, I can't. I'm sorry, folks. You're listening at home. I didn't. I failed in.
Why would they have to be at home, Ted?
So
You don't have a list at all?
no, not really. Really, seriously, I didn't. I didn't really put the one together.
Wow.
I know. I failed. Well, I was thinking more. It was. We've also used this as an end of the year and kind of like what's happening, what's going on, and overall, I thought, and as opposed to just a
No,
list.
we've talked about the year in review.
Oh well, gosh, I guess my brain's somewhere else.
Usually, though, I'll get a couple of good leads from both of you about movies that I've
Sure,
either
totally.
forgotten or missed or skipped or just absolutely forgotten about.
Okay, I will throw one out. Saint Omer.
I missed it. And it only played for like a week here.
Right, French film. The script.
Diop?
I think the screenwriter's the Portrait of a Woman on Fire, right?
No.
No, what did she do just recently that was here?
Oh, Petite Maman.
Huh?
Petite Maman.
No, there was something else. Maybe
That was her last movie this year.
I think somebody.
but-
I think somebody from that film was involved with Saint Omer. Maybe I'm mixing up with
Are
something.
you sure? Actress, maybe?
Maybe. But anyway, I did see that, and it's a. The interesting thing about it is you're thinking you're going to go, oh, we're going to be watching this really interesting, arty, dry courtroom sequence at the time of the film, but it slowly messes with it, and by the end of it, you're left with a lot of things to ponder, to think about, and how that she plays it out. It's based on a real incident, and very fascinating. And I would put that on my list because as again. Living in Evansville, Indiana,
It was here
and
short.
not having internet, not having the streaming services. I'm very limited to what I got to see the cutting edge or foreign films or whatever. I pretty much saw anything major, I guess, like the Top Guns and the.
I want to mention this because I said this to you guys when I worked for a few months in Los Angeles this year, and especially when I first got out here, I found it very interesting that when I first, so it had been September, I got out there. A lot of the movies I was looking to see out in LA were playing here.
Yeah, well, you correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but I always thought, in LA you get it's just everything's there and you get to see everything you want. And then over the years I've heard from friends that live there and your knowledge and everything else. If you want to see St. Omar, you may have to go way out in the burbs to see it, and it only plays for a week.
Kinda, yeah. And I think a lot of it's changed post pandemic because ArcLight is closed. Landmark was closed. I saw Fablemans on opening day when it was only at 2 theaters, and they were 2 of the biggest AMC theaters in LA. So it was, it was odd.
We'll wait to see how your list plays out because I do have a question about a film you just mentioned. But let's go ahead.
I'm sure someone's gonna have Fablemans higher on.
You think so?
I will say Fablemans was lower on my list than what I have mentioned so far, but
Lower than.
we'll talk about it whenever. I'm sure it's going to be on one of you guys' is higher, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, we can talk. Ted, if you don't have a list, this is where you can come in and you can bring in the big. Well, why isn't this on your list? And when you want to talk about,
Right? No, go ahead. No, but anyway, St. Omar, I'll throw that out. That's my first pitch.
I'm sad I missed it.
And I would be very intrigued to see what you guys think of it.
Smith, you want to start?
Sure. I would actually say I don't necessarily have a top 30, and I'd say even really my top 10 isn't necessarily ordered. It's just 10 that I liked, and there are a couple that I liked more, but certainly.
Did you have an honorable mention?
Yes, and that's why I would say most of these would fall into, and there were a few documentaries that I saw that I really felt like I don't know where these would fit into a top 10. But certainly Moon Age Daydream, I don't know if that's...
I saw that. I got to see that in IMAX.
Yeah, and that's the experience of it and the way that it sounded. It was just incredible. And I'm a big boy. And to be honest, most of these documentaries, if you're fans of the subject, it made the documentary really interesting. And
Moon Age Daydream had 20-minute sequences that were just amazingly edited. It was just felt like when you put it all together, it was a lot. But it had sequences in there where it's just like... I haven't seen this footage of Bowie. I didn't know this footage was available, existed.
Exactly. I had the exact same experience where I'm Bowie. I'm assuming we're all Bowie fans.
I think I'm going to guess you're the biggest Bowie fan in the room, but yes, I am.
Okay. Well, that's we all knew the music and just saw a lot of footage that I had never seen. Some I had seen, but obviously I'd never heard it. I mean, I know Ted saw it in an Atmos theater,
Oh
so
man,
the
and
sound
Atmos
is
almost maybe
incredible.
better than the IMAX.
You and I both saw it in the IMAX, so just the way it looked and say it was just a great experience. So certainly that's something that I think would probably slot somewhere in the top 10 as far as like my experience in the theater, but I don't know if it was a top 10 film.
Okay.
And then I would say a documentary that I saw on, I think it's Disney, Fire of Love.
I started, I haven't finished it yet.
Really solid. And you know, you kind of fall in love with the two characters, I guess. And so, there's and you know how it ends. It's one of those type of things. It's a grizzly man, and the experience is what. And it is similar to a documentary that I saw a couple years ago. Werner Herzog made another film about volcanologists. It has some overlap with that, so I actually think his film was a little better. Still a very good film. And then the other two, and I guess because these are series, I don't know if they would necessarily count as films, but since last year, we all counted the Let It Be documentary as a documentary feature. Last Movie Stars. I know Ted really liked this quite a bit. If you're a Newman fan, are you not a Newman fan?
No. I didn't finish it, but I liked what I saw.
There's a lot of it.
I don't know if I would consider it it's more of a miniseries, but okay.
And we need to talk about Cosby is the other one that I felt like it's 3-part series. So it's you know only about 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours. I thought that was also very good, but there was a lot of it, and I think that makes watchability difficult. And the same thing with the Last Movie Stars. I'm a huge Newman fan, so I had less of a difficult time sitting through it. But I think as far as watchability, if it was maybe 2.5, 3 hours, a lot of the techniques that he used were really great.
Last Movie Star I thought was just endlessly watchable. I thought the mythologizing of it was maybe I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
I just couldn't tell if it was just like actor talking up an actor, you know?
Yeah, it's worshipful.
Yeah. I'm going to put a spoiler for the end. At the end of mine, I like this year, but my favorite thing was a TV show. I'll get to later when I get to my number one. But
really,
no, it's not my number one. I'm just going to say when I get done with my
number
one,
I see.
The best thing I saw this year was an episode arc. But anyway.
Well, I'm trying to be as sneaky as I can, quiet, and going through my journal. I keep.
Do you need some more time?
I got a paper journal. I keep, and I'm behind a letterbox. I duplicated a letterbox, but I got behind a letterbox. So yeah, I'm going to catch that up sometime. One I saw that I really thought kind of came out of nowhere. AMC brought it in. Clifton Collins and Jockey, where he's just he's on the verge of being aging out.
Have you seen this on anybody else's top 10?
No, but the critics all liked it, and maybe it's too. Oh, maybe by the time we got it, was really technically 2 years ago. Maybe a film.
Wasn't it like a Sundance movie or something?
Yeah, I think it did really well at the festival.
Wow.
And the actress in it, she's well known, and just some really just a nice little quiet film. I love these little films. You know, it's like when the woman that did Eternals. Remember her film about
Chloe Zhao?
Remember when she came out with that one Western character that broke his, hurt himself on horseback riding.
You're talking about the writer, right?
Yes, the writer. Yeah, just these little films that just come out of nowhere, and they're just quiet character studies. And this is just really appreciate. Jockey's one of those. So I don't know if I'm going to amass enough titles here for a top 10, but Jockey would be somewhere in there.
You haven't given like any thought to like a.
Not really. I've kind of. The pandemic and
it's just one of those things that goes by the wayside.
Yeah, and I used to, the reason I started this journal was for top tens.
I think we could all say, and I'm guessing I can speak for you guys as well, that Top Gun and Avatar are those in your top tens? Should I not say this?
Was the Batman this year too?
They're not in my top 10, but I had a great time. They're spectacles. They're great fun.
They are in my top 5. We can talk about.
Okay, well then, I'm glad that they are because
we can talk about that.
Me not putting them in there may be unfair.
Did either you two have? Would you have the Batman in your top 10 or top 20?
It was my favorite. If we're going to categorize it as a superhero film, it was probably my favorite of the year.
Of the year, but not.
But that's not saying a whole lot because I guess Doctor Strange was really the only one I even really liked. So there weren't that many that I fell in love with this year. So
Also in my top 10.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm just picking apart his list.
Yeah. Well, my one thing that's going to come when we get to my top was like I miss spectacle. It's per
There are
your
a lot of
streaming
great.
conversation.
Well, there's another one that's not in yours that's in mine.
I do have
Elvis. That
it's coming up.
see?
It's coming up.
Well, I love those movies. You know the one that I
look. Okay, I'm gonna name my. Let's get this.
we should have just let
get this out. Just
do you want to just
get
do
to
your?
10.
Let's
get to
do
10.
your 25 and then Ted and I. That might make it easier.
I'm at 21.
Because I think
you're the one. You're the one who's got it all together here. So I think you should.
It's almost
no
3. This is our 3rd year doing.
I know, but you're young. You're a filmmaker.
Oh, it's the youth. It's the youth.
And you have you're still at it. You're enthusiasm.
All right.
This.
All right, getting 20 in
broken
order.
the rules of the game.
Bullet Train, which I thought
Yes,
was a really
so much fun
to get back in a theater and just
Aaron Johnson is
Movie-
going to be a movie star.
movie stars acting with each other and being funny and charming. It was really entertaining right to me. Number 19, Nope, which I know a lot.
Yeah.
That's about where I would put it. Somewhere in the teens.
That's
certainly.
that's going in the top 10. Yeah.
You guys gonna be in your top
Oh,
10?
really?
Do you want to hold off on talking about it?
We can, or whenever you want to talk about it.
Nope, I thought was
You were more disappointed with it. I know.
this is a vague spoiler if you haven't seen the movie that came out this summer, but I have a problem with
Oh, yeah.
villains that have I want to be vague about this. Villains that have really simplistic weaknesses that make no sense, that are like set up as third act things that kill them, and among other things.
Well, I have a retort to that.
Allow me to retort.
And I think I've already mentioned this to you before, or I have mentioned this to people. I feel like this is the Jaws for this era. For this
There's a difference between oxygen tanks and plastic.
And I know that's
This reminds me more of Signs.
That might be too high praise, and I know Jaws is like a perfect film.
That is real. I'm not even going there.
I'm just saying, it was a horror film. And the creature was very much similar to the shark. What a shark is. Think about it.
What worked for me about Nope is, but it also I feel like it was too much about its own metaphor. So all the stuff about filmmaking was great, but it was too much about it for it to feel integrated.
That's where I can't say I can't. I'm just saying it feels like a Jaws. I'm not saying it is a Jaws. It's at that level, but it's. I like the characters, and you were involved with the characters, and the creature was just okay. It's there. And the metaphors, that did kind of lean it over. But what makes Jaws so great is just those. You want to hang out with those guys.
Did you guys see Jaws 3D, by the way?
Not recently.
No, the 3D
yeah.
that came out this year.
see
Supposedly that 3D conversion was great.
I could put that on my top London list.
There you go. I missed it. I heard it was great.
It was. The 3D held up the entire film, which is
Well, it's a new conversion though. It's not like the third Jaws.
Yeah,
that they did in 3D,
no,
but...
yeah, it was. But I was really pleased with it. I couldn't believe it that they actually, because I'm so dubious about 3D films.
Spielberg's actually been pretty good about his 3D conversions now that I think about it.
But anyway, getting back, I just think in terms of like I it was cool hanging out with these characters and seeing where they're going to do and how they interacted, and that's what you get with Jaws. That's why I'm kind of comparing.
Jordan Peele, also to his credit, is just pound for pound, he is really emerging as just scene for scene one of our best working filmmakers. I'm not going to take that away. It was great to watch. Yeah. But going quicker, number 18, Prey. Just a prequel sequel that you're like, this was unnecessary and this was great.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm dying to see it, but it sounds great.
Yeah, especially if you watch don't watch it with the English and watch it. Yeah, it was in subtitled. 17, I know it was like some people really, it just came and went. Bros.
It's very funny.
Bros, yeah.
Yeah, there's
I think you missed it. I think you intended to come and.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely want to see it. It's on, and the Blu-ray's at a pretty affordable price. I'm gonna probably pick
There's a speech that Billy Eichner gives at the end that kind of, well, anyway, Number 16, Elvis. I think you going to have that in your top 10?
It is, and obviously, I'm sure we both agree it's flawed, and I'm sure you saw that Tom Hanks got a Razzie nomination for
Oh my God.
his
Razzie nominations
performance.
came out today, and Blonde was like, oh, the Razzies. There's the worst.
I'm sorry that I brought
They
it
are-
up. I shouldn't
No,
have
it's
brought it up.
fine. The Razzies are just a shitty organization. Like they're what's the one of their first titles is also on the Sight and Sound list we just had an episode about, The Shining. Like it's just what organization puts all that energy into tearing something down like that? It's just 15. I'm done with Babylon. Babylon. Did you see Babylon, Ted?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
in fact, I want to see it again on the big screen.
Babylon.
Because I mean that ending, there's a lot to still digest. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're almost grabbed by the, by the reins, and you're jerked to this thing, and then all of a sudden you got to kind of like almost readjust yourself.
Yeah.
to
Well,
figure-
I've mentioned in other episodes. I know Damien Chazelle is a big punching bag for a lot of film people. I love Damien Chazelle. I think he's such a master at big endings for like what would traditionally be Oscar movies, but he does endings well. Like La La Land and Whiplash have just these great endings, and I do like First Man too quite a bit. And what I found really weird is that I thought the first hour of Babylon was great, and I thought the third hour of Babylon is where it really kind of went, just because like the way it kind of stretched to make tragedy for these characters, the way it felt like it became more of a gangster story at certain points as opposed to a Hollywood story. And then there's that last sequence, which I think you're referring to, which almost brought me back into it. But
Yeah.
but it was weird. Also, I saw it the night of the winter storm, right before Christmas Eve at Showplace East. And when I got there, there was only one other person that had a ticket. And when I got in the theater, that person didn't show up because of the storm. I was the only one person drove out in the storm. So it's weird seeing this movie, especially at the end, where you see these sequences of these full theaters of people just rapturously, silently enjoying cinema. And I'm at each Showplace East biggest theater looking around, and I'm by myself.
A lot of people are having that experience, though. It's just not doing well, and it's a challenging watch for a lot of people.
Isn't there the hope that some Oscar nominations are going to get its little bit
I
more
hope
box
so.
office?
I mean, I don't know if it has necessarily an audience more than it's already reaching, other than us,
That
the
first
film
hour is
fans.
just great. I love, yeah. Ted, do you want me to?
Where are you now?
I'm at 15. Should we get up to 10?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So
All
I
right.
don't want to poach any more of your picks since
All
I've
right.
kind of already decided. And I bet I could pick the rest of your top 10 out by what you exclude 15 to 10.
Fine. I think this is going to get a lot of nominations tomorrow. Number 14, Banshees of Inisherin.
That's way higher on mine. But
Okay.
we can talk about it
We will
now.
talk about that in a second. 13 is one of my favorite novelists and one of my favorite working filmmakers, White Noise. Did you guys see that?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Streaming.
Oh man, I have also this is along the line of Skimmer. I've been wanting to talk to somebody about this movie. So, it has got this 80s affectation to it. But one of the things that like Don DeLillo has been adapted for screen a few times, and I never until now really got how like someone should adapt him with goofy comedy. And the thing is, the movie, like, Noah Baumbach has a love of language, and it doesn't, because DeLillo's so distinct at it. It doesn't always manifest it in the best way. So there's literally a scene in this movie where Adam Driver is in his bed, awake, and can't get back to sleep, and he literally starts talking to himself Don DeLillo prose. But I kind of get what Baumbach was talking about as like related to the pandemic. I get that. But the real price of admission is the end credits. It is the year's best end credits sequence.
Any better than Buckaroo Banzai?
Oh, Buckaroo Banzai didn't come out this year, Ted.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you said this year. Okay.
It is, yes. Okay. It is. I wouldn't say it was one of the greatest of all time, but it is.
In recent memory.
Yeah. If you have to fast forward to just like, you can watch it as its own music video. It is great. 13 12. I think it played in Owensboro. It didn't play here. Confess Fletch. It was a movie I saw.
Oh, they actually did play it.
They
AMC
played
had it.
AMC. They were doing the 2 shows a day, or
Yeah.
peppering it
It was
throughout.
fun. I saw it.
You okay?
Enjoyed it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice.
I saw
Nice.
it. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I saw it at.
How would you compare it to the other? I mean, the Chase.
Well, the
That's
first
right.
one I think is just wonderful. I thought finally, because Chevy's career is such a mess. But when I thought that was a perfect vehicle for him. I go, oh, this is a perfect fit for
It
Chevy.
does feel like that. Like the whole Bugs. One of the things that I found fascinating was when I felt like this movie got buried was because everyone thinks that Chevy Chase made that character, and that character is written in a novel as Bugs Bunny, and it's just like it's a perfect fit for Chevy
Right,
Chase.
right. So yeah.
Which is why John Hamm is very good on his own. Like
No, it was fine. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it.
I would like to see more.
okay, so
For sure.
yeah, I would love it. They made more. It does not. I can't imagine they are going to. It's Greg Mottola, and like
Do you think though? I mean, what's the production budget on this? It doesn't really have to earn a lot of money for them to have.
it
a
seemed like it was
sequel.
buried though.
No.
Per my point, Ted, you were asking about L.A. movies and how it was. It was the last night it was playing kind of in Century Cities where I saw it, and then it was going to go where like if you looked up on Fandango, like it was gonna then I'd have to drive 20 miles to go see it. So I saw it like the last show and like there was 7 people in there and we were all spread apart. It was like a 10:30 show at night. And I swear to you, that auditorium was full. That movie would have killed. That movie just would have played like game. We were laughing our asses off separately from each other, and if the laughter was infectious at all, that movie.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I was by myself probably.
Yeah, that movie worked great with an audience. This movie was way higher, and I was raving about this movie for a long time after Midsummer. Barbarian.
Oh,
Barbarian is one of the.
see now you guys. Here's a good example of seeing the horror film that I enjoyed, and plus it helped that I didn't know about the.
Barbarian is one of those great examples of like I vaguely knew something about it, and I'm having trouble remembering the last time I was this surprised by a movie and not knowing where the hell it was going,
Yeah.
and on my edge of my seat and loving it. I'm not gonna say like maybe the end sequence was probably a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah,
but,
it starts going to the pushing it
but
way too much.
this is amazing. Like the filmmaking was great. It was fun. It just
that would
went a
be
bunch of different
that
directions.
would be a great one with a packed house.
Yeah.
First.
Well,
opening
I
night.
actually did talk to a friend who saw it at an Alamo screening with a packed house, and he
Oh, I
confirmed that.
bet. I bet that was fun.
Well, once the buzz came out on that one, it actually was getting a crowd, and it was in the top 10 probably 3 or 4 weeks in a row. So I think word of mouth was really good for that. So I don't know if people were telling each other, "Hey, I saw this movie and it was fucked up, or it was
I told
crazy,
people
or
go see it. Don't watch the trailer before you see it.
well,
Because even the trailer is
trailer
pretty good
gives-
about hiding it.
well." And to be honest, I think
They
once
made
you see the film and then see the trailer, you realize there's more clues there than you really
there
needed.
were a few, and they made a jokey trailer where they made it like because of the there's a turn at one specific point, and they made a trailer for almost the second part of the movie,
Yeah.
and it was
I have a ringer to throw in that I don't know if it's really in my top 10 or top 20. Well, I don't know where it's at, but I really, really enjoyed it. It came early on, and I remember even I was surprised at some reactions of somebody I thought would really like it. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
I want you to explain this to me.
I should know her name. She was the sister in the Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, Phantom Limb, Leslie Manville.
Leslie Manville.
Yeah.
She's Mrs. Harris.
Yeah, okay.
Wonderful
Yeah,
performance.
she's a great
Wonderful
actress.
little film. A lot of good British actors pop into it, and it was just a fun delight to see it.
Have you ever diagnosed that you maybe have a love of kind of British?
Definitely the Duke was here, and I like the Duke a lot. And then by the way, this is what's his name, the last film with the director who died pretty young. He did Nottingham Hill.
Mike Newell.
Yeah, Mike Newell's last film, and Mike, he's got a nice little solid record. Solid is the key word here.
Yeah.
He did a documentary too recently of all these dames, 4 of the dames together. Maggie Smith.
You've actually talked about that
And that
on
played
here.
here. I got a kick out of that too.
You've talked about this on the show actually.
But yeah, and I was so glad to see that she got some recognition. She's kind of like one of these British actresses that has just been around. She always turns in great performance, and it was just a nice little fluffy, fun film that I recommend for if you want to have just a nice afternoon viewing on a rainy day.
Okay. Smith, do you want to start the top 10? I think this is the fastest we've gotten through this ever, so I'm kind of impressed with our.
Maybe it helps I didn't have a list.
Yeah, exactly. This has worked out well.
A couple of things that I think I still have to go through as far as
Okay, more honorable mention. You only
honorable
mentioned
mention would be well, I know this is going to be on your list, so I won't mention that. But I thought Bones and All was a nice slow burn. Nothing really happens, and it actually is relatively
Yeah, have
boring.
you noticed that it's
But
I think Owen Glipper. I think the Variety get considered one of the worst films of the year, and it's getting a lot of weird flack. And I thought,
that seems weird.
You didn't care much for it.
I didn't, but your observation about Mark Rylance, I agreed with. That Mark Rylance is now Anthony Hopkins, where like he's either a gentle or he's the fiercest, scariest presence on screen.
Yeah. And Rylance is another British actor that's just all of a sudden everywhere.
Yeah, and when he's in there, he's good. Yeah, and I mean Chalamet, Rylance, like. Yeah, my whole point was I thought Raw did it. The Raw did it better.
I almost wish I hadn't known. I before seeing the trailer, I didn't take the time to see the. I'm trying to avoid trailer. I thought it was just going to be another Call Me by Your Name reunited.
Well, that would have been a fun.
I was going to bop in there thinking, oh, another romance or another just character study. And then I saw the trailer. Oh,
hey, so you both saw it. Like, did you recognize it? Because I waited to the end credits. It looked like even though they could have they mainly shot in Kansas. It looked like they said there's parts of it that took place around here. There's a part that took place at Kentucky Lake or Land Between the Lakes, and in the credits it said they shot some in Indiana.
I didn't recognize any scenery.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing specific.
Okay,
but
all right. Smith, do you want to continue?
Well, I mean, two things and I intentionally didn't put them in my top 10 because I didn't really like them that much, but I did like them, and one of them in particular.
But you didn't but you admired them.
So Glass Onion definitely, I thought was a lot of fun. I liked all the performances, and it just felt like it takes a couple of just really cheap shortcuts that I didn't really like, but if anybody liked it more than me, I understand why, because it's entertaining.
It's in my top 10.
So it's completely entertaining. And another one, and if this is your number one, I'm going to apologize in advance.
I think I know what it is, and it probably is my number one.
Then I won't say it. Then I won't. We'll talk about it. No, we'll wait until you get your number one. No, I don't want to do that. That's not fair. I want you to say what you like about it, because that's actually more important than why
fair.
I didn't.
I just feel like
because I liked it, and I'm guessing we're both talking about Everything Everywhere.
Yes.
I did like it.
The elephant in the room.
I did like it. I did like it. I'm not saying that I don't like it. It just.
I knew
it
you
doesn't
felt this way
hit
about
for
the
me,
movie.
and
I just didn't want to do the thing where it's like, don't say it, and just like annoying people listening.
So I don't want to take anything away from you. If that's the movie that you think that you like the most this year, that's the way that it should be. I don't want to take it.
We can,
I did enjoy the film, so we don't disagree.
I
we don't
understand
disagree.
The whole, don't want to take something down, but I'm more than amenable to talk about it when we get to number one. Ted.
So that is your number one?
No. That's outside my top 10 intentionally.
Oh, honorable mention or something?
Yeah, outside of my top 10 intentionally, but not because I didn't like it. I mean, I felt like I probably enjoyed something like Bullet Train, which I think we both agree on. As far as just overall enjoyability, watchability, the performances,
going back to Bullet Train, the funny thing about my reaction to that, and I thought, I'm a sucker for that kind of film, but you know what? It kind of crossed over with my superhero fatigue, and I'm almost thinking now, what just hit me right now was I think it was almost like Brad Pitt wanted to do a superhero film, but not actually do. Within the DC Marvel franchise.
Wait. So he wanted to do something that's like not IP based, and we should hold it against him?
No, I'm not saying that, but it's based on a book, actually.
Okay.
But I'm just thinking it was just like we've the John Wicks, that whole
those big audience movies that people find entertaining and enjoyable.
No, I know. I mean, I've actually seen all three John Wicks. I kind of slept at the third one a little bit, but
wow, that's a ringing endorsement for everyone who genuinely like these movies.
I have a nap before. I have to have a nap before I go see a film. I'm an old man. Sorry, folks. But
Ted, do you like movies? You're on a movie podcast, right?
Maybe I've changed, and maybe or maybe dementia's kicked in or something. I don't know. But it just. Bullet Train smacked a little bit of just like winking a little bit too much at us. I may change my mind. I got the Blu-ray. I'll go watch it again, and so.
Anymore, you getting a Blu-ray is not an endorsement of
No,
anything.
well, not yes and no, because if I didn't get my nap in, or I didn't, so or I had a bad viewing, or I was seeing with the lights on the entire time.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll have a better viewing the second time around.
Smith, do you want to start your top 10, or do you want
obviously I don't have these in necessarily any order except for the top couple, but
do you want me to then go to my top 5?
well, a couple you've already mentioned: Hustle, All Quiet on the Western Front. Both of those lower end.
Hustle.
10, 9.
Okay, let's talk about Hustle. I mean, I probably would. I mean, Sandler's great in it. One of the best
Is this the director on this?
It.
It's a documentary filmmaker who he's made some features before.
For some reason, I was thinking it was a Baumbach feature.
No, they got a real NBA player to and it's a great performance.
Juancho
Jeremiah Zagar, he directed
Herman
We the Animals.
Gomez, who still plays in the NBA now. He's on the bench for I'm not sure. I think the Wizards. But either way, it feels to me like some of my favorite sports films, and specifically Moneyball. It felt like to me for basketball. And,
I am a big NBA watcher, and this movie felt good to me. Yeah. Anthony Edwards for the Timberwolves is
absolutely
the foil in it too.
Yeah, it was much more interesting, and of course Sandler, who's kind of having this late career renaissance with like Uncut Gems. It's he's obviously doing what he wants now,
which is good because there's a difference between the Happy Sandler or the Happy Madison movies where the story is always that he's in Hawaii and on the opposite side of the set where no one can see anything. They have a bunch of flat screens where they're watching NBA games. He's just hanging out with his friends, which to be fair, I think is cool and admirable. It's just sometimes I don't want to watch the movies. These are just him using his natural charisma and acting ability and it's delivering for me.
I think you and I though come from the same point. I can't imagine, and I'd be curious how that plays for a non-sports fan.
Okay,
because I wonder if flavors our enjoyment of that film.
You might get much more out of it than I will, but I will say this: cinema of any form or any kind, and I am hardly a sports guy at all, but sports films, sports documentaries, I'm there. I can enjoy them if they're good.
Yeah, and I think you would like it.
I will watch cinema if it is good and it has been curated for me very, very carefully.
I will take.
I have tasters who taste it before I taste it.
I have a couple more that should be right around 10. So I've got a bunch of 10s and 9s, and then a 1, 2, 3. But I really liked Black Phone. That was probably my favorite horror film of this year.
Yeah, Aaron, that's one you pestered me.
I really enjoyed it.
I just ran out of time. I really was going to go.
You didn't see Black Phone?
Ethan Hawke's kind of my. I hate to say this, but I used to feel this way about Michael Douglas. Now I feel Ethan Hawke's my newest I don't get really excited about Ethan Hawke, but he's in so many important films.
What are you talking about? You don't like movies anymore, Ted? I think it's official.
He puts out more movies than Guided by Voices puts out albums.
But he does quality work.
That's not fair to Ethan Hawke.
But he does quality work, and he
always does quality work. He's such a good
I know. And Michael Douglas did quality and does quality work, and they're always important films that they do, and I go see them. But I'm just thinking, I'll go see a turn of a movie that Clint Eastwood does because I've always been a fan of Clint Eastwood. I like to go see Clint Eastwood, but Ethan,
I thought we were going to get in this. I was so prepared to do my lament. I'm like, it's harder to get to movies, and it's harder to watch new stuff, and it's harder to love new stuff. And it's just, Ted, I didn't realize we were that far apart.
Well, we are kind of. There's a big gap between us age-wise.
Wow. Well, it's not the age-wise. It's the movies. It's the movies, Ted. I never thought this would have happened.
Well,
Smith or
All Quiet on the Western Front. Really enjoyed it. It's the best war film I saw this year. I just,
Easily.
I have a place in my heart for the 1931, the original.
I think it's 28.
20, okay.
But the thing I was...
But the acting is so,
all I remember with the original, I was thinking about as I was watching this today, was just the last scene of the original.
Well,
that's all I remember.
Okay.
And this one was just... Do you know the book at all or anything?
No, I hadn't. But it made me want to read it now, especially that I've seen a couple different versions and they have a lot. Don't really have that many. Well, there's 3. There's one in the Ted. What's the third version of All Quiet on the Western Front? 79.
Oh, there's
I knew he would know. See, this is why Ted is here.
And you love movies again.
Thank you, Shane. The Waltons, John Boyd. There was a well-known TV movie that did.
Was that before or after? It was right before Big Red 1, right?
I don't know. Yeah, it was coming off of Waltons, I think. I don't know. Time-wise, I'm always bad at.
This guy's like
79, I think.
This guy's lined up potentially to be getting like a Best Director nomination, and like it's extremely painterly. The execution of some of these sequences is just really stellar. Like you click it on Netflix, they make a comparison between 1917 and Saving Private Ryan, which is so pedestrian, but part of me is like, actually, that's pretty spot on. I was still thinking a lot. I haven't seen a war movie or an anti-war movie in a while, especially someone new one. It seems like maybe since 1917. And so I was really stuck trying to think, because this is such the definitive anti-war movie, or at least the anti-war story. I was trying to think of that Truffaut phrase that movies can't be anti-war because they always inherently celebrate it. And I was really trying to watch this being like, is that true about this? Because there's also a really good essay I read by David Simon from The Wire talking about Paths of Glory beating that, saying like, because Paths of Glory is about the bureaucracy, it is inherently it's completely anti-war. And this has just got some really the sequence with the stabbing in the pit was a lot for me.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm glad that you appreciated that movie. I haven't spoken to anybody else that's even watched it, even though it's getting all this buzz. So I'm not sure if it still has the profile that it should.
I knew it was going because
now, of course, obviously with the Globes, we didn't really get much, and then Critics' Choice, I think that it got some nominations,
it was like BAFTAs that it did well.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but
we're not paying attention to awards anymore either.
No,
do we like award shows anymore? I don't think so.
I love award shows, Shane.
No, here's the thing. Here's a good.
You love award shows, and I don't.
This. I understand the people. I understand people. Somebody posted today on Facebook like, here's my creed on award shows, and they're worthless, and you just, and I'm like, and a lot of our friends like rag on them, and they are not what they used to be in some ways. And,
that's fair.
There's too many. There's like a whole bunch of them, and too much attention sometimes paid to them, or not paid to them. Blah blah blah. But there was like 2 or 3 great speeches in the Golden Globes that made it worthwhile. I mean that's what you want to hear. When Michelle Yeoh gave her speech, and when Short Round did his speech, I mean they were just brought tears to my eyes, and that, so those moments make it worth watching, slogging through a bunch of crud sometimes, or the cheesiness of it, or the the commercializations of it. But that's what you look for, and you get to see some of your favorite actors and directors talk. Or what's the name? The comedy actress Coolidge, and for White Lotus,
Jennifer Coolidge.
Her speech was amazing. What an actor goes through, and the career, it just gives a capsule shot of what an actor can go. And you've seen her all the time, and you almost get to the point where you don't appreciate her, and then all of a sudden she gets this award. You go, oh yeah. She's always money in the bank when she shows up.
I think with White Lotus season 2, a lot of people were appreciating her. It seems like just because she was hitting a zeitgeist moment that like was there in the first season of White Lotus, but like they really were playing up like her returning.
Yeah,
like,
but I just thought and to see like the love given to Mike White or the Daniels, to see these guys really do something different and unique, or appreciate these actors that a lot of times we end up taking for granted. So that was really nice.
Ted, do you have another movie you want to?
Well, actually, while you guys have been chatting, I've actually almost constructed a top 10.
This worked perfectly. You cheated. You wrote this down on the bus on the way to school.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want me to do? Well, first of all, I got a couple of interesting ones. Attila.
I didn't see Till. Till's supposed to
I
get
think
a.
she should be up for an
Yeah,
best
that's
actress.
supposedly she's
I was
supposed to be an
surprised she didn't get Golden Globes in there. You know, I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't want to stir the pot. You know, being an old white man. You know, but it seems like we got a lot of films with the diversity in one way or another, inclusion and diversity, and all things being in all kinds of film, almost every genre of film that's been coming out lately. I'm thinking of like Amsterdam and some other things that you go, really? Does it need to be in everything? I mean, that's where I'm gonna get in trouble. Just please don't crucify me, people. But Till is a legit story. This is history, and this is we need to see more of these stories that really just it's just a tragedy. And you watch this thing and what she did, the mother and the boy, and just I knew about through a Bob Dylan song when I was a kid. Sorry, Shane. And
Ding, the timer goes off.
But anyway, it's a very strong film, and they did it very well. Nothing, not super artistic or anything. Just told the story, and I really appreciate it. The other one I should mention, I don't know if it's going to show up in your guys' list, is Black Panther. So, yeah.
Black Panther was not high on my list.
Okay, I really enjoyed it. I was really this is going to be the geek in me, but I was really scared because how they're going to handle Submariner. The basically Marvel's answer to Aquaman, but actually Submariner predates Aquaman in times of comic book history. So DC kind of beat Marvel to the punch there. And so they came up with an interesting angle to make Submariner work, I thought. And I thought, again, there was my fatigue lessened up with this one. I thought there was more dramatics and actually kind of like a geopolitical slant too that I really got a kick out of, as opposed to just fight scene. So for what that's worth.
Well, we're going to get to my top 10 where it's superhero fight scene apparently, I guess. All right. 10 for me, we just recently came to Evansville. You guys might not have gotten to yet. Ted, I think you've seen it. The Whale.
I have not.
Okay. Yes.
I was really prepared not to like this movie. I was really prepared.
Yeah, I know. You and Jay had talked about it a lot.
Jay did, so yeah, we're mutual friends. And yeah, I'm amazed at.
I thought it was going to be another it would be more on the lines of The Wrestler, where Aronofsky doing it more of a quote unquote normal film. Almost every Aronofsky film is just something to behold in its own weird way.
Mm-hmm.
And like I loved how Noah was kind of like his blockbuster film, but he had to be Aronofskyized. So
religious iconography.
And the last one was Mother. You can't get more out there than with the Mother. But I loved it. I was amazed by it.
I think the thing that blew me away is that it's a hard thing to perfect, but there's something about this movie builds emotionally, and then at the end it gets really emotional at the end, very emotional, and the movie hits its high point and just ends. It just goes out, and you're just like, you sit in your seat for a second.
That's interesting. I wondered. There's almost a similarity to like some of the structures of his other films. That building.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Fountain kind of does, but
in its own weird way.
They seem to come down a little. Like they have a little denouement, a little bit of one.
Yeah.
This one just goes straight into.
In fact, making this little list out here at the last minute, that just blew me away. I said, "This is it. This is the film of the year for me." I was so. The acting, the structure of the film, the little nuances they throw in there, some things that you had to think about is not at all explained, and the things that were explained, just everything. And then Samantha Morton shows up. I love her.
I wish you hadn't spoiled that, but okay.
So, is that a surprise to everybody?
I thought it was a surprise.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me too. I mean, most cinema people.
Yeah.
Just
it's almost a feeling like you get to a certain point in the movie and you're like, and then another character comes, and it's another shoe drops.
Yeah,
but just even that there's going to be another character in this, and because it's a cinematic play, Smith. It's in like we've seen these movies before where they make these things of like, how do we open it up? And if you were complaining about this movie as feeling too logged in, fine. It's based off.
But
I
there's a
just didn't
justification
feel.
for
I
it,
didn't.
too.
I did not feel that.
But there's a
Sure.
there's a blatant justification why
Yeah.
we need to stay in this house.
I'm just saying cinematically the way it was
no,
filmed.
no.
Like
I mean,
this.
but
it-
you could counter argue that, you know.
I get if you complain about this. I just don't agree. I think it was. I think
right.
it worked.
And I think but yeah. So but I've discovered there's another film to me that's huge from last year that I forgot about. That just blew me away. So we'll get to that. But
Just go ahead and say it, man.
well, we're not all gonna get to our number ones yet, are we?
All right. Let me
But
continue.
the whale is up there, way up there.
If you're prompting me to continue on, next is RRR. Wow, and I only just finished this a few days ago.
That was, I'm sure AMC had it because it's Bollywood. They play all the Bollywood films.
did AMC play it?
I think so.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because they get the films. What's amazing about Bollywood films? This goes back to they've been playing here for years at different venues over the years, and the when it debuts in India and it debuts in the world, it debuts in Evansville. So RRR probably played the week it opened here in Evansville, and then it's been gone after
I watched an Honest Trailers on it the other day. An Honest Trailer sometimes nails how I'm feeling about a movie weirdly, but they made a crack that like for a lot of people, and I don't think you're the same way, Ted, but like this was my first full viewing, not just like parts, full Bollywood movie viewing, modern Bollywood.
Oh,
movie.
yours.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like,
Yeah, I've seen several over the years, because they, like I said, Eric had them for a while.
This just pisses me off. Like, I think I had to slide it a little just because there's a certain level of like operatic maturity that this movie didn't want to have because of the physicality of it. Like, it's Stephen Chow was the thing I kept thinking of more than anything else throughout this. And the villains, I have to be like, okay, the villains are a little too cartoony for me. But for the most part with this action, I was just like, God, American movies are just so unimaginative and suck, and they just don't make big swings for audiences now. It feels like they're just so much fun. And
Well, yeah, that's what I got. Anytime I see a Bollywood, especially the ones that break out in the musical numbers, I feel like we're back with a Stanley Donen or a Vince Minnelli musical, the musical era of MGM at their high point.
One of the big sequences that, as much as the action sequence, as much as you want to be like, oh, cool, they grab a motorcycle and throw it midair, and like, oh, that's neat. One of the coolest sequences for me is when that character is getting flogged and bursts into song when he's getting flogged in front of a crowd. That was just. I was like, that was such an amazing place to turn it into a musical, or to burst into for a character to say what they can't say because they are literally being beaten down.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so great.
Yeah, Larry Shazarinsky or ever I can't pronounce his last name properly. He wrote all the biopics of everybody.
It was Scott Alexander, yeah.
Yeah, he should have put a clip on Facebook of everybody in the audience in the theater going crazy over when the wedding dance sequence ends.
Yeah,
and it was just like they just loved it.
Yeah, I
This is
think
a
on this trailer
showstopper,
people were
without
just
a doubt.
like,
Yeah.
I want Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio to be able to do this, to the dance sequence with the.
So,
Number 8, I don't think he's played here yet. Decision to Leave, Park Chan-wook's entry this year.
oh yeah.
So it's the way I was describing after seeing it is it's this great Hitchcockian thriller that is not thrilling at all. It is just romance, sad romance throughout.
Truffaut did one of those, but
Oh.
the Green Room or I forgot which one it was. Glove. It was like Hitchcock.
No, but
nothing.
no, I'm saying this was done on purpose this way. Like, it was just the romance, the very kind of broken-hearted romance of this movie is what is the tension in it, and yet it's done in kind of a Daphne du Maurier movie or novel or
Well,
something like that.
I'm sure Truffaut was on purpose too because he loves Hitchcock. So.
You know, increasingly, I'm starting to find I agree with Tarantino about.
Oh, I know. I'm really curious about that.
That's why
too.
you're bringing this up. I'm like, let's not. No, this is good. This is a great filmmaker doing that.
Okay.
This is a great filmmaker doing this. Like, Truffaut's like, he got Bernard Herrmann. That's his thing. Oh, it's so silent. Number 7, which I haven't seen on a lot of people admired it when it came out. I haven't seen a lot of people's lists. The Northmen.
Oh, well, there it
That's
is right
definitely-
there. That's my number one.
That's your number
You
one?
didn't see it? Or you did?
No, that was
I literally
my
just
top
said it's my
three.
number 7 movie of the
Oh,
year.
sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm
No,
just
we
gonna,
all loved it.
I,
Ted, we all loved it.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it
Do you want let's hold off? You want to put
Well, yeah, we-
or do you want to
we can
talk
talk about
about your
that.
favorite movie of the year, Ted?
that that was it till I forgot it. Actually, though, it's been so long ago, and my old man age, I forgot. My brain cells are
Old man, take a look at your life.
I saw the Neil Young in the theater. The Neil Young. Speaking of that, Harvest with Old Man. Northmen. I saw that thing, and remember, I think I told you were. Did I come out just like a babbling idiot? I think with you on it. I just first of all, when I sat down, and I watched it. I got transported right away to. I felt like I was in a big Charlton Heston epic, and I'm a sucker for those because I grew up in that era, and I El Cid and Khartoum and the Warlord, all these big Charlton Heston broadswords and all kinds of stuff. And I'm a sucker for Viking movies. Isn't that a Zucker Brothers joke there somewhere?
Timmy, do you like Viking movies? I don't think that's the joke.
And
is it?
I haven't seen the Viking
Gladiator
the
movies.
streaming Viking series, which I hear has got good acclaim. But this thing just blew me away. And again, it's a independent director going for the big guns.
You and I saw The Lighthouse together, and I remember I just have not liked a Robert Eggers movie, like really, or loved one. Like there's a lot to admire about him, but I've never loved one. And for him to make the first one I really love on like a big budget and a big serious filmmaker who's making deliberate choices with a lot of like resources behind it, and
Yes.
it all coming together, nailing it.
It's got spirituality to it. It's got realistic historical elements to it. It's get too close to like maybe almost why I love that my Three and Four Musketeers. There's a Lester influence, but I mean the fact that this is a movie that incorporates everything you can incorporate to make a great movie. Every element's there: the audio, the music, the landscape, the cinematography, the editing, and drawing from other films, but not blatantly. I mean, I have a really I don't want to go into it, but I have this really weird reference to Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid of all films that's in this film. And
How long's it gonna take?
you want to hear it?
Kinda.
It's the raft scene in Pat Garrett that everybody all the critics love. Where a raft, and this is Pat Garrett, Billy Kid, a raft's flowing down the river, and a father and a son are just randomly shooting a can in the river, just taking pot shots. Coburn is on the bank, relaxing. He's putting off chasing down Billy. He doesn't really want to chase down his friend. He sees that. He pulls his gun out and shoots at the can. That minute, the father swerves around and with his gun, and he's about ready to blow away Coburn, and Coburn aims his gun at him. And the whole, I've always been it's curious why all the descriptions and critical assessments of this scene, but it's I think the randomness of violence in America, the randomness of how at a drop of a hat that you could kill or take someone's life. How do you interpret that? Have you read that interpretation, or that you remember that scene? Or
I mean, I remember that scene.
so remember, he's a kid. He gets escaped. The kid escapes, and he has that vow. He repeats over and over. I'm going to revenge my mom, and then we cut to him. Also, we don't know where we're at. We're in a boat, and all of a sudden he's a full man. He's rowing, and the guys in charge of the boat just randomly shoot these two people on the shore and let them drop. And they just keep on going. They're just kind of laughing. And it's just random violence for no reason whatsoever. And I don't know why I made that connection, but I did. Because I just thought, well, that, just the nature.
Well, like the peck and paw worldview of violence being something very random, but like something that's inevitable, and a lot of masculinity involved with it.
Yeah,
as, like,
several just same things. And again, they were just nonchalantly shooting the can in the river. And Pat Garrett, these guys were just like fishing or on the shoreline doing something, and they just get shot for no reason. They get killed by these boat a being Viking passing by. I don't know why. But I mean, I agree by totally deny that. But anyway, just all these things in the Northmen just make it just an amazing experience in the cinema. And I would again like to see that with a packed house and see how the audience felt as the film spooled.
Smith, it was high on your list too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in addition, what Ted had to say, I really love the company that he's using. Obviously, with your
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe and your
Oh yeah,
Anya Taylor-Joy,
and Ethan
you know,
Hawke.
he's using the same actors again, so so that's
You
working
mean
well.
it's not Michael Douglas? It
Yeah.
wasn't?
And then the sound design was
Sound
so
design.
interesting and weird, and there were long sequences where Willem Dafoe, you know, when they had that cave. I don't know if it was supposed to be a psychedelic experience, but and then so he's got to give this speech, and you can tell that there's supposed to be information that he's giving you, but you don't necessarily catch all of it, and I think this is intentional.
I was, and I went to this movie kind of again, having not feeling like this is a really with the Lighthouse that this is a great filmmaker who sometimes misses the forest for the trees. Like he's so into the verisimilitude and the details, and he misses the narrative. And there was a big New Yorker profile that came out beforehand, and it talked all about his ambivalence about cutting it down and all these long takes. Which more and more as I get older, the long takes are just this sign of masturbation to me at a certain point. And this movie just worked.
Yeah, I see. To me, this I don't know. This is sound maybe goody, but I just think it deserved a Top Gun audience, The Northman.
I think it did good money wise, didn't it, Smith?
I
Like,
think
amazing?
because the production budget and what it actually grossed were roughly equal. I think it's still considered to be somewhat of a failure.
They made a big deal about Everywhere being the A24 biggest hit ever. So I guess like Northmen.
I guess, but it's not going to get a Top Gun or American Sniper type audience
I
because
don't think
the violence is just a little
Top
bit.
Fascinating you
Gun
brought up American Sniper.
doesn't
because-
have any sharp edges. I mean, Top Gun is as
Right,
smooth
right,
as
right,
can
yeah,
be.
no,
The
it was-
Northman is,
Rough. It
yeah,
can be
most
rough.
definitely. The bark is still on
If
the
you-
tree.
If you can handle the modern sensibility of the roughness in this big epic of a film with the character and everything, I think it would find its audience. But some people just immediately go, it's a little bit too weird, or like the scene with Bork or the Valkyrie flying, or things like that. But that's what made it so great. These little things, these little weird things that in a big old fashioned epic.
I agree, but I think those are also the decisions that keeps the Top Gun audience away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Number 6 for me is brought up a second ago, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which
Over Black Panther.
yes. If you give Sam Raimi excuse to
Was that 2022? Really?
he wants to worship Steve Ditko even more than he would with Spider-Man. You give him a camera and say, by the way, this camera is not confined to gravity. It can move so in dimensions, and it moves. And you're like, oh, by the way, Sam Raimi, you basically get to sneak another Evil Dead sequel into a Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's funny. I keep on forgetting because the monolithic
I get
mightiness
that.
of
I
Marvel
understand.
is that you forget. Oh, it's Sam Raimi, and then you go, oh yeah. And it's
This
a lot of
one
fun.
felt like a Sam Raimi movie.
No.
though.
I'm not arguing with you.
Look,
on that.
the comparison we talked about this on our All the Marvels episode. I think Marvel movies, the homogeneous nature of them, I think is comparable to that book that came out in the 70s, How to Draw the Marvel Way, or the Marvel Method of it. Like I get it. There is a little bit of a house style, but I feel like people do interesting stuff inside that style. And
Well, you got me. Is Gunn like Wakatiki or whatever his name is? Gunn, is he like? I'm still frustrated that Edgar Wright didn't get a chance to get a shot.
yeah, and I mean, you were just talking about your superhero fatigue, and I'm not going to take that away. I understand it. I'm not. It's just I'm not feeling
I'm
it.
there,
I'm not-
but I'm
I don't
there-
feel bad that I don't have it yet,
Yeah.
or I have it in random spots, but it's not on every
Well,
movie.
I'll justify seeing Eternals, even though a lot of people
And
just
in-
don't want to dump on that.
Eternals, in theory, should have been the one that was like
Or another, what's her name directing it? The writer.
Chloe Zhao.
So, but let me geek out for a second. I love the fact that basically when it comes down to the Marvel Universe, that what Fahey's really pulling from. I mean, he's pulling from more modern stuff too. But the classic Marvel Universe is basically created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, but except for two main characters, Steve Ditko, and it's Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and who directed those two characters?
Yeah.
Sam Raimi. It's been perfect. It's
Smith, this
Are
brings
you-
me up to 5. So.
Are you going to mention the the music fight, which is probably one of the coolest sequences in a movie I saw this
Oh,
year.
Well, the multiverse stuff in there, where like they yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you did, and especially at the time, it was early in the year for superhero movies, and now looking back, and maybe if I watched it again, I'd probably have a different experience. But I thought it had a lot of sequences I really enjoyed, and then it was just okay otherwise. And I don't know if Cumberbatch is maybe not enjoying his time doing this character as he had previously. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I was also a big fan of the first one, and we're Black Phone Scott Derrickson, where we should have brought it up there, but I feel like it's a good sequel to the first movie too, just because Rachel McAdams was just such a forgotten character, and this one seemed like it was well written for her in mind in that arc too. I'm just saying as a sequel between those two films, the two film story arc. I'm at my number 5, Smith.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we already know your
You
5.
know my
But
gaps.
yeah, go.
You know my because you do.
No, go ahead.
Let's just
Honestly,
run through-
and the thing is, before you even get to those, I had a good time with all these movies, and just because I didn't put those in my top 10, things like Top Gun and Avatar, they're extraordinarily entertaining.
By the way,
so
if you
I'm
didn't
not
get-
taking anything away from those being in your top 5 by not putting them in my top 10.
I will tell you right now, you cannot guess my number 2, and you will love my number 2. And I'm not sure you saw it. Number 5, Glass Onion.
Is Don't Worry, Darling your number 2?
Don't Worry, Darling was still high up. I think that is a stupidly underrated movie.
I agree.
Like, I get that there's some problems with it, and the stuff around it obviously is sunk in some ways.
But it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and
So gorgeous. And, it's
it's a
two-thirds of a
surrealistic
great
world.
movie.
Yeah. Olivia Wilde is a great director. I
Flawed
love that part.
masterpiece.
Yeah. And Ted's not.
No, I'm fine. I'm on board.
Glass
I saw
Onion
with
was-
Aaron, and we both liked it. I think you did like it a little bit better than I did.
Yeah.
But I thought it was solid. I thought it was very solid. So.
Glass Onion is my number 5.
Spoiler alert. The turn. Should I even mention, because it is relatively
I think you
new.
could say the halfway point turn. We're a few weeks.
There's a thing that happens, and it's such a cheap, just ploy, and it's a tactic that I think with this scope of this film you shouldn't use. But I get where you have to get from one place to the
you
other.
didn't see before, and literally it would take out gaps of conversations that you would then see like a full conversation. And in the first part of the movie, when you saw that conversation, there's literally like
That was an interesting
Technical
device,
gaps.
actually, and I mean that I was fine with that. It was just
Okay.
there was one obvious element, and when it's revealed, it just seemed like, oh, well, that's an easy retcon with easy storytelling retcon that I had a lot of problems with. But again, I had fun, and
I don't want to talk spoilers. But I
the
do wanna
actress
know
that
what you're
played
talking
Whiskey, I thought was terrific. Well, again, I don't want to say spoilers because it is a new film, and this particular turn is essential in explaining what had happened to that point. But
about.
all these other characters know this one character, and then there's a character development that occurs, and then no one apparently recognized this the entire time. And it just seems really cheap.
In other words, you got to go with it because
You do.
A matter of there's no way that person could become that person that quick.
I have now seen it twice, and I've heard some complaints about the second half. They worked for me the second half. Like back to the conversation earlier about streaming at home, pausing it. But there's still Netflix holds out their big Christmas movies. It feels like they release them on the Friday around Christmas usually. And there's very few of them that as soon as I wake up, I know it's available. I start it right away and I don't stop it. I was that way with Glass Onion.
No, I really was too. I think I watched it within 48 hours of being available. I was excited about it. I was Knives Out was certainly I was aware of Rian Johnson. I was aware of his work. I know that he's a fan. He's for us fans, we kind of want to have that kind of director do well. We appreciate what he's doing. But but I just thought it's hard to follow up something like Knives Out because you don't get that element of surprise. You're expecting
Yeah,
this
I
to
think
take those stakes higher,
that's the
and
challenge,
it
though.
tries to do that, and I think for the most part it succeeds.
Okay.
It does do that, but I just don't think it's as successful or as satisfying as Knives Out, and I'm only comparing that to itself, obviously, or to his previous work, and again, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. It's that had some
There's
issues.
There's some spoilers. If we really want to go into it, we'd have to talk to, just because like the big reveal at the end, like alone, is like part of the reason I love the movie. So
Yeah, and similar to the the subtext of Nope.
yeah,
I think the subtext of Glass Onion is really right there on the surface. You
No,
don't
no,
have to
here's
dig
the thing:
for it.
the subtext of Glass Onion was made a big deal just because of certain
Oh,
things in
yeah.
the ether right now. But like, I think based on the time when it was written, like it really
It's
is a good
prescient.
it's a good Trump commentary and a good Trump era commentary. There's a thing about Trump era stuff where like Amsterdam's a really version of it that doesn't work, where it's just like the sanctity of voting in the 1930s and we gotta get rid of fascism in 1930s is the way to deal with it. It just feels more on point.
Was that your takeaway from Amsterdam? Did you like Amsterdam? None of us liked
Amsterdam's
Amsterdam.
a mess.
Yeah,
in a
okay.
way.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But we got we had some interesting problematic films this year. That would be one.
Yeah.
And George Miller's film, which I know we don't want to bring up.
You know what? I can go through my whole list, and there's a lot of movies in here that are like admirable movies that we like. I didn't react to as well, but like are notable. And that one, 3,000 Years Long, in George Miller's movie, which is odd. I think it has some supporters. Lena Dunham had 2 movies come out this year. Sharp Stick was one I thought was okay. Some people like The Menu. You brought up The Gray Man earlier. My big issue with that was like the gun battles were way too cartoony in it, but I thought it was some good movie star acting in
Would
there.
you put Men in that category?
Men is higher, but Men is one of those ones that like a lot of people. I think it's the weakest Alex Garland movie, but the weakest Alex Garland movie is still a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I Men might be pretty high up for me. Surprisingly, I forgot about it. I mean, now that I think about it, oh yeah.
Am I going to mention movies that are going to completely redefine your like impromptu top 10? Should you go ahead with that? Amsterdam, I think, is just kind of it's got a lot going on, and it's got one of the best casts of the year. It's and David O. Russell, even messy David O. Russell, still interesting. You saw Empire of Light too, right, Ted?
Oh, that's on the list.
That's on your list.
Yeah, I'd probably put that in my top 10.
Chippendale's Rescue Rangers was
That was a blast. Yeah.
What
you
about
probably saw that with your kids.
I did.
Super
They had a
Pets?
great
So
time.
I did see I got around to see.
You saw Super
What?
Pets?
Is that what it's called? Super Pets.
Yeah, DC League of Super Pets, I think was what
yeah,
it's called.
it's good. It's fun because you get.
It was better than it should
Yeah,
have been.
yeah, exactly.
Resurrection with Rebecca Hall.
I bought the Blu-ray. I'm getting ready to watch that, but
Well,
I think
that is a badge.
Yeah.
You bought the Blu-ray. Pearl
It's
X.
intention.
Pearl and X. Dang it! You know, I'm everybody's gonna kill me because I'm behind on those two. It's going to be a trilogy. Turns out it's going to be a third one.
Yes.
And she's also in the new Cronenberg, son of Cronenberg film. So yeah, I need to get going.
Son of Cronenberg.
Son of Cronenberg.
He's very much his father's son. That's for sure. His films are.
Did you have a preference between the two? Which did you prefer? Because a lot of people, I think, prefer Pearl because of the monologue.
I just saw Pearl for the first time the other day.
I preferred X.
I preferred X too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
they were both really good. I enjoyed both of them.
Pearl, I mean, the whole the 50s melodrama mixed with the slasher drama was one thing, but like there's just some fun about the porn Texas Chainsaw Massacre of X.
Yeah,
it just worked better. Emily the Criminal.
That's
Yes.
Well, great.
It came out on Blu-ray.
Okay,
So I couldn't see it.
What's the actor who plays the
boyfriend
who was in Luke Cage? He's
He
great.
is so-
we were talking about actors that
Tobias
show up.
is
Tobias Russo.
Theo Russell?
Theo,
Russell.
yes,
Rossi?
yes.
Theo Rossi?
Theo Rossi.
so good.
So good.
I just like, man, I want to watch a film with his character. The way he just handles with his charisma. And then
he shows up in a lot lot of things,
Yeah.
and every time he's
deserves-
just like, "Oh, that's the guy."
It's just like, Clifton
Clifton Collins, yeah.
But I just swear,
John Hawk. He's just one of these
what
guys.
What a nice little surprise of a film.
This,
I think Schrader, I think Paul Schrader helped me keep an eye on it because Schrader liked it on his Facebook.
Yeah.
Look at Shane, he's over there.
No, this episode feels like it was organized by 2 or 3 people who didn't just really have their notes together.
What do you think? What would you think of it?
Well, but
I
you
did.
did.
I mean,
In our defense, Shane, you set some parameters early about how if we mentioned a movie and someone had it higher, we were going to pick it back up again.
I
which
added a math
guaranteed
quiz
we're-
to the whole thing.
yeah.
I apologize. I'm just gonna keep reading off this
That
list.
was a real curveball, sir.
I apologize. Something in the Dirt. The Moorhead Benson movie this year is my first Moorhead Benson movie I ever seen. They do these low budget $50,000 movies, even though they are directors of like Moon Knight, and they do very brainy low budget movies. Is that black enough for you? Elvis Mitchell's movie.
I'm dying to see that. I started watching it at my sister's house, but I couldn't. Stay.
The lead Razzie getter of the year, Blonde.
Dying to see that. I love that. Love him.
After Sun. The new Scream was actually, I thought, pretty good.
Wait, there's another one coming out.
Yes,
Is it already?
it's another one coming out.
Holy
next
crap!
year. Marcel with the shoes on.
That's cute.
Yeah.
It was very cute.
Marcel the
Little
shell with shoes
syrupy.
on.
Little syrupy.
Yeah, that's fine. After Yang.
Oh well, that's in my top. Yeah.
Okay.
We did come back to that.
Okay. Earlier mentioned Petite Maman.
Dying to see that. I mean, I saw the trailers at the show place, but it never came.
Okay,
Not my fault.
I got a feeling these are going to be on some of your top 10 lists. These are my best loved movies of the year that I have very low. The Fabelmans and Tar.
Well, I did write down Tar.
Do we want to discuss Tar now?
Well, it's I mean, we can't
Have you
avoid
seen
it. I mean, in some ways. I mean,
Tar is just, in theory, should be the best movie of the year for me. It is probably one of the best made movies of the year. It is an adult movie that it deals with contemporary subjects, with an actress giving a stellar performance and a filmmaker at the top of his game. And why the fuck does it have to be a fucking Me Too story? Why does it have to be another power corrupt story? Like, why does it just? I don't need more of movies about abusers. I'm done with it. And you find a different angle and it's like, oh, it's a lesbian symphonic director. I just don't give a shit. Did any of you guys see, I forget which composer, but there was a European composer who had these exact same complaints about it, and Kate Blanchett had to defend them. And part of me was just like, I am on the composer's side.
well, going back to when I said I don't crucify me being the old white man here. We're all three white actually. The
What?
but the fact it's like it's Me
Speak for yourself,
Too,
Ted.
Black Lives Matters, all the different things that we've had going on have been showing up in our films in one way or another, almost everything, and no matter what the genre or what it is. And I'm saying these are important topics, and we need to see them, and we need to be exposed to them. But in every single solitary film that's is that the way these directors and writers are getting their greenlit?
Well, I think the problem with me also is that Tar in particular has this kind of showstopper scene, like 2 scenes in, where it actually, I felt like, is the movie that's trying to complain about cancel culture in an interesting way. And then to like make the character complicit and try to do moral ambiguity with it, which in theory is fine. I don't need to see it. And we're not even talking about, have you seen the Dan Coy theory on it's an interesting interpretation on like the last, I guess, 30 minutes of the movie, potentially having a Taxi Driver ending where it was all a dream. There's a lot to talk about in the movie. Its spine is this story that is, I don't need to see these type of power dynamics. I've seen them so many times before. I see them in real life all the time. I'm good.
But with it being that low on your list, does that mean you didn't enjoy the film, or you didn't appreciate it, or you just weren't in the headspace?
I was bummed
because
out.
I mean,
when
like
the turn starts to reveal itself, I was bummed out that this is what this movie's
really
about.
like it, and I think I'm kind of with you, but I knew that it was good. You know,
Yeah.
and
Well, you know it's
well
well
hard to
made, and you know
specify. Yeah,
it's so really. I was at a point where I was just like talking to a friend about how like just casually brilliant the movie is. There's this point where
right.
or just like even you could tell in the first viewing where like when she's doing her boxing matches or where she's getting out frustrations by hitting a boxing bag, and it's I forget which Beethoven symphony, but it's in the rhythm of the Beethoven symphony, and they've been talking all this movie about the how influence just comes up in there. There's that opening speech about Mozart ripping off Beethoven, right? Like that was just so casual brilliance. I remember in that speech in the professor room, there's this phrase of Freud's that I've heard people mention recently that I think is amazing, but it's the narcissism of small differences, and it's just a casual mention,
That's what it is.
and it's just thrown off because that's how much literate, great piece of writing that is just constantly in every minute of this movie, and yet why is it gotta? It just bums me out. It's like why is the spine of it this?
Because that's what we're that's the topic of the day.
I don't think it has anything interesting to say about it. Then that's what bugs me. Is it just like it because it always makes like this like power corrupts inevitably issue with a person that's been in that position forever, and I just find that we've done that story before. I've seen that story before. Fablemans, do you guys want to talk about that?
I obviously liked it more than you do.
It wasn't in your top 10 though.
No, and that's unfortunate. I think if you'd asked me last year if it would be in my top 10, I would have bet money that it would have been. I love Michelle Williams. I mean, there were a lot of things that were admirable about it. It was fine. You know, it reminded me many times of something like Belfast, which I think was more easily digestible and just was more fun and gave me more opportunities to kind of interact with it, or at least touchstones for me to stick with it. And I think Fablemans is good. I don't have anything really to say negatively about it. And I'm going to assume both of you are Spielberg fans. It would be difficult to say, okay, well, this is a poor film or
Check
a bad
out our
film
Spielberg
because
musical episode.
we all agree that it's consummate filmmaker. So just because it isn't necessarily what we'd expect when he finally makes a film about himself, maybe it just
it had its moments too, obviously.
Absolutely.
I'm so over the map over there. I was there opening night for it because I was just so juiced to see it, and I was hoping for I don't know. I just wanted to. I was thinking I was going to get a magical feel out of it, and it didn't seem to have that extra little ethereal feel like I had. Remember, if I want to use Spielberg's example, Close Encounters gave me back in the day when it came out, or AI. We were discussing that. I remember that had an interesting feel to it, but there was something lacking. And of course, but it also I went through a kind of a divorce, somewhat not well similar, very similar to is what he experienced, and so that touched me a lot in a personal way. But the cinematic nerd is that last sequence is just you got. I mean, that almost it makes it worthwhile to sit through all, even if it is a little lackluster. That last sequence is just I just loved it.
The lackluster part is there's a trend I was noticing, which I'll bring up on my number 2 movie, but like it seems it started with Roma in the last few years. A lot of directors have really pushed to like I need to make my full autobiographical
Armageddon
film.
Time, which I need to bring up.
Yeah, I brought that up
James
yet.
Gray does that with his, and what's the Bardo? Isn't he doing that?
Yeah, Inarritu's Bardo. And a lot of times there's a feeling sometimes where like you'll see them in interviews say like, this is how it really happened. And it's like, well, you're a filmmaker, you're a storyteller, shape it to an interesting story. Don't just like lay out the facts. That's the difference between memoir and autobiographical.
I think he maybe he leaned too much on the divorce aspect and that aspect of it, as opposed to. I thought it would be a love letter to cinema filmmaking, and I thought that as a sequence we were going to see him doing his amateur films. I thought it would. This is my preconceived expectations, and that's dangerous because they're going to be let down.
Sure,
but I just thought we would get this. I want to go out and make a movie. I want to get, I just want to.
I kind of felt that a little in that sequence, but I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I just think there was enough of that, and to make that I was just expecting a little bit more magic in the film, and just maybe the dourness of the divorce kind of dragged it down a little bit. I don't know.
All right, finishing up the last superhero movie we haven't mentioned, although Taika Waititi was mentioned earlier, Thor: Love and Thunder, which I mean, just was in theory great. Like just maybe a little step down from Ragnarok, but theory's got a lot going. Christian Bale's great in it. That black and white sequence is cool. And you mentioned Armageddon Time. Do you want to talk about it?
Oh yeah, that kind of came and went and was a nice little surprise. You guys read earlier, we're talking about Trump. I wanted to insert the fact that a little cameo by an actress played Trump's sister.
Yeah, which is in the trailer, so but we don't need to spoil it.
But yeah, I thought it was James Grace. It's kind of he's over here in the corner making these little soft films for the most part.
Yeah,
Doesn't get much attention, and it was another little period piece from his childhood. And I thought it was very touching. Again, dealing with subject matters that were, like I said, they're almost in every film we see nowadays, and it happened to coincide with his life, his youth. So therefore, maybe that's why he got the money to make it. But I would recommend it very highly.
I don't think it's played here. Women Talking was
it actually is. It's supposed to play this month.
Okay, it is.
Sarah, how'd you see it?
Austin. When I was in Austin.
Sarah Polley, yes. This is her fourth film, right?
It's there's some elements of it that are spot on. There's some elements that I was a little disappointed in. There's these sequences where weirdly for a movie called Women Talking, the sequences there are a few in there. They're not many where it talks about young men were the most emotionally affecting for me. But maybe I'm saying this as a man. Bodies.
Yeah,
that was a fun slasher.
A lot of fun, and also just a nice little twist. Not not real heavy handed.
Yeah.
Just and it's surprising. I didn't see it coming, and I thought it was a nice little film. I was very surprised by that one. Not as much as I was by Barbarian or even Megan, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Megan's gonna have to be on.
But that's 2023, obviously.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. Smith, do you want to finish out your list?
Well, number one for me was Banshees. Banshees of Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
I just connected with the melancholy. I a lot of the the Irish Civil War stuff. Being an American, my world history is probably lacking.
Sure.
So some of that stuff, metaphorical stuff. I don't know if I got everything, but just the just melancholy would really connect with me a lot. And of course the three leads, well the four leads really with Barry Keoghan. Yeah. How do you say that? Barry Keoghan. We're both wrong probably. But the four leads were all terrific. I just, I had a lot of fun with that. I don't know. Well, and fun is probably the wrong word to say because it's not fun. It's actually really super depressing.
Yeah. The people I've talked to have really jumped in that like Mark McDonagh's more depressing than normal they expected for. And part of me was like, you've seen Mark McDonagh before, and Mark McDonagh has a really good playwriting career beyond his writing directing, which The Pillman's pretty freaking depressing. Depressing in this term where did you talk to people at the theater whenever it was?
Well, I mean, I've talked to half a dozen people that I think would enjoy it because it's not for everyone. Clearly, you have to be in the right headspace in quotes to really be able to appreciate it because it is at best a minor key melody and at worst it's like incredibly depressing. So,
but it's
I think you have
depression too. I think too.
Well, sure, yeah.
And there's some funny stuff in it being about depression too.
Yeah, I think the funny stuff you get from the actors. I think that they really get this across. I think if you don't have this relationship already with these actors and this film and this director, some of the things that are funny might just come off mean-spirited. But yeah, I did laugh a few times, certainly, and I do think that it is funny in a way, but not in a way that I think most people are going to appreciate. So yeah, for me, it was the movie that I connected with most. And I'm, certainly the acting, the directing, all is great, but then I also loved just the location, just really beautiful. And the things that I would say about Don't Worry, Darling, I could also say about Banshees of Inisherin.
The fact that you kind of undercuts viewer expectation because the whole thing was predicated on, it's a reunion of the In Bruges guys, and everybody loves In Bruges who have seen it, and then you see the trailer for this, And have you seen In Bruges? You've seen
Yeah,
the trailer.
but the thing about In Bruges is there's a dead kid in it.
Oh, I know, but still, it has a light touch. It has a much.
In Bruges' second half
Aaron
does
just said,
not
is
have.
You walk out of Banshees like, what am I to make of that?
In Bruges' second half gets dour, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but
Gets very, very Catholic.
yeah, but still, but it's an very, very, very intriguing film. I love him and his brother, both of them.
I haven't seen much of John Michael McDonough.
In fact, I'm missing one of his brother's films where looks like there's like cops, like Seth Rogen and another guy play. They're just down on dirty cops or something.
I don't think Seth Rogen's been in a John Michael McDonough movie. Is that true?
The brother one. Who's his brother?
Yeah. Seth Rogen?
Or someone like that maybe. But all their films, the Cavalry and the Guards with Don Cheadle, his brother made those, and just both of them are just so talented, so talented.
Do you want to finish up your? Have you finished writing your list together?
This might be another one that might be 2 years ago, but AMC brought it in. Motherly Sunday. It was really good.
What is it?
Colin Firth. It's an English film based on a novel. Colin Firth and Olivia Colman. I mean, it's top. It's had a big cast. And
what is the word for Britophilia?
Anglophile.
Yeah, but this one's not like Mrs. Harris or The Duke. This one's very serious. But again, yes, another British packed film that
you love
on the serious side.
You love your masterpiece theater, Dan?
Yes. Oh, yeah, very much so.
Okay.
So that I recommend that when you guys get a chance ever to see that.
Okay.
Oh, Montana Story. I know it played late here last year.
I didn't get around to it,
but I thought it was really good. Isn't that she's the girl from that's in both of the Koreans film, Columbus and
Kogonada.
Yeah.
You're going to bring up After Yang here in a second, too.
Yeah, she's in Montana Story. Really nice, sweet little story that beautiful scenery and I overlooked. Do we want to talk about? Speaking of After Yang, I thought it was really good. You got this around to it, did you, Shane?
Yeah, I have my complaints aren't really because Coconut is amazing. Like Columbus is a really cool movie, especially for someone living in Southern Indiana. It was a little bit of like, I listen to a lot of like AI podcasts or people talking about the future of AI. Have you ever heard the complaint that Herb breaks down in the like last end where there's this tendency, as much as we want to make movies about AI that like long to be human, now that we're starting to get closer and closer to the possibility that AI might really be something, like we're like, no, that's not exactly how it works out. They're just different, but they don't have ids and egos. They don't aspire to love and have a life beyond us and stuff like that. I guess with a little bit with After Yang at the end, that was kind of where I was like, but there was like Coconada's like way of just setting up a movie, much less a scene, is always so poetic and interesting to watch. And Colin Farrell's really great in it too.
And I love the Herzog reference in there.
What was the Herzog reference? Oh, Grizzly Man, the Herzog
butterflies. We talk about the butterflies. It's the tea, making the tea, and
I was so into like the first half hour, 45 minutes of it.
But no, I really recommend it. Oh, two favorite directors of mine came back with films this year. One I really liked, and one I was kind of Walter Hill was back with Dollar for the Dead, with what's her name in it from Mrs.
Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah.
Do you want a smartphone with IMDb to it, or like how's this?
I don't, but I'm gonna have to
I did want to see this.
Yeah, it's very Walter Hill-ish in some ways. And maybe my expectations were too high. That always happens.
Well, one thing about like, did the budget match up with them? Did it feel like
it was okay? It wasn't a great budget, but he had Willem Dafoe and he had what's her name and he had
Rachel Brosnahan,
a couple other major actors in it. So yeah, it's I think it's glad to see him active and doing flexing his Western muscles. And then the other one would come back for me, and it was match my expectations. Is David Cronenberg, Crimes of the Future.
That is one of my big omissions of the year. I still haven't seen it.
That's it's pure. He's back and forth. He's back, baby. Because body horror, just like his son's doing.
Just let me be like body horror's back.
Exactly. But it's the son continuing it. Yeah. So it was really really good. Again, Kristen Stewart making real interesting choices of being a Cronenberg film. I love seeing her and Patterson's career and what the choices they make is so fascinating. So yeah, if you're a Cronenberg fan, I don't think I wasn't let down. But it's it almost picks up where Videodrome left off because after Videodrome he started making other people's scripts,
Yeah.
adaptations.
Dead Ringer has a little bit, and
No, yeah,
and an existence.
He never really, yeah. It's and then the one with Jude Law,
existence.
Yeah, the organic matrix, as I call it.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And then Phil Tippett's Mad God.
Still, I need to see that too. And like what I've seen of it is amazing.
It's I can't explain it. It's just a mind trip, but it's amazing what
It's pretty much a silent movie, isn't it? Too.
Basically plays like a silent movie, but this is one of the masters of stop motion animation after Ray Harryhausen. He's one of the masters, and to get this project done,
he's done like 22 years on it.
Yeah, he's been even more maybe, and it's worth It's worth a look. And then, I guess the last thing I want to say, and I don't know what the official release date here is, but I saw this and it's just masterful. Is the documentary on Ennio Morricone called Ennio, the Maestro.
You mentioned this a few episodes back.
It's directed by this guy in Cinema Paradiso. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. But he's worked with Morricone. Actually, he's used Morricone on his soundtracks.
Yeah.
And the interview was done. Just like we remember how in Scorsese you got to have the fact of Dylan sitting down and answering all these questions. Morricone was still alive and answering all these questions.
That was to the Dylan thing.
That it's so you get to hear things straight from Morricone talking about his career, and it's a little bit over. It's over 2 hours and it's really long, but I really recommend it. I was able to I have an all region player, so I don't think it's been released officially here in America, possibly. So check it out.
I am going to wind down my list. I think I really have one surprise left, really.
It's your number 2.
Yes, well, let's get through the other ones real quick. Top Gun, Maverick, like IMAX in the theater, like movies are back.
Did you see it with a crowd?
Yes.
That helps,
Yes.
I think. Honestly.
I think, but you're thinking, I see, to me, you're being, I think that's so high. It's back to the little bit hipsterism.
I do not.
Look at me.
Shots fired.
I'll take that shot. I am not a fan of the first one as much. Me
either. Honestly,
I saw it for the first time, and this movie does not deserve to be this sequel does not deserve to be this good. Especially for a movie that's all about Tom Cruise being Superman for the military-industrial complex. Yeah, I still love this movie. I keep calling it the Christopher McQuarrie industrial complex, where like that man needs to get a lot of money and make more movies. And which I think is going to happen if I'm going to go.
Yeah, I would say so.
With Mission Impossible's coming out. Avatar: Way of the Water.
What number is this?
Number 3.
Number 3.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Don't be.
Honestly.
Honestly.
I'm not. No, I'm sorry.
Incredibly entertaining.
I'm not to the core.
You let me finish my fucking sentence. I am not sorry for liking this movie. I'm sorry for the rant I'm about to go on, which you guys were then cutting me off of. Spectacle has been gone. This is there's a reason this movie just crossed the $2 billion mark. This is the thing that's bringing asses back into seats. I think, and Ted, I ranted about this a few episodes ago after I first got through seeing it. I think everyone's complaints about it being trippy and simplistic and indigenous stuff is just so wrong-headed. Like, so the book I'm reading right now is David Graeber, the economist who died recently, wrote this book that's supposed to be a response to Yuval Noah Harari, which we did an episode on, and his book Sapiens. And a lot of what I'm reading so far is talking about how mainly post-Enlightenment and whenever Europe was coming into North America, there is a lot of people ignoring indigenous tribes' critique of European society, and that there was actually a lot of interesting writing when like a lot of Native American tribes were seeing how these Europeans worked and had these terrible power hierarchies, devotion to the king, and just intense capitalism and like punitive, just like really crushing punishment for money. They were critiquing it. And so my point is, the only place you're going to get that critique right now is if someone does a metaphor for indigenous tribes, and it's going to come from science fiction. So all these people out there who are talking about post-capitalism seem glib, and then they'll turn around and make fun of this. It just bugs the shit out of me. Like, this is the only place you're going to get a real interesting critique of the way we do things. And like, especially from an environmental standpoint, this is the only way yes, it's put in a poppy bow, but like in a $2 billion bow.
But really, does that kind of underscores your point? Is that it's medicine for everyone?
Yeah.
It's not just for film fans. It's
Yeah.
like everyone has seen this movie, and everyone's getting the message, whether they like it or not.
And everyone, like, there's, everyone made the joke, don't bet against James Cameron after this, but
You shouldn't have
real.
betted against Cameron before that.
I mean, really,
clearly,
like, and
he's
people
money in the bank.
People act like, look, there is an interesting thing where I think people forgot about the first one just because that movie's power comes in the theater. That movie comes with scale.
I would say that about this one as well.
Oh, totally. Because what happened is I've seen it twice. The first time I saw it in 3D, the second time I saw it 2D on a 235 screen, and it's still cool on the 235 screen, but like it's an experience, and it's a cinematic experience, and it's just an undeniable one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm to be perfectly honest, the experience that you have with those two films, Top Gun and Avatar, if we don't put them in a top 10, they deserve their own category.
Well, that's what
because
I was going to say. I don't know if I would put them in my favorite top 10, but certainly both experiences were fun.
There's cinema. There's movies. It's what else? Like, why are we parsing what we saw?
Well, a lot of times, for me, a top 10 is these are films I want to see again. I want to watch. And I'm not sure I'm going to rush back to Top Gun or Avatar.
I've watched Top Gun a few times. I own it. You see it over on the shelf, and I just recently bought for the first time the extended cut of Avatar. I watched the extended version of it. Of course, we were going to try to do an episode on it. It hasn't happened yet. All right, my number two? I'm tempted to just do my number one, get out of the way, because my number two is the only thing with tension, but fuck it. My number two is on almost no one's top 10 list, and then I've seen I've done this every year where it's like when I see this on nobody's list, I have to see it twice to be like, did I just have a good time with it, and was I wrong? And usually, Mitchell's versus the Machine was the one last year where I was like, no, the second time
turning red.
No.
Okay.
It is Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood. I don't know why.
No, well, I know.
Did you see it?
Your relationship with the filmmaker, so.
Well, I was an intern for him a long time ago. And I lived in Austin, Texas, where he is a presence. Yeah.
No, I have not seen it. Obviously, it's high on my list to see.
What's it called again?
Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood. It's Richard Linklater's Rotoscoped contributions. It's his news movie.
It's Linklater.
It's Richard Linklater's newest movie. Yeah. It is criminally not talked about. It just blows my mind.
That's the problem with streaming, I think.
So the basic gist of it is it's a rotoscope thing of his childhood, and it's kind of got a young adult spine to it, where the joke is that they in Houston in 1969 they screwed up the Apollo 11, and they have to go to a kid to covertly go to the moon on his own. And I mean, and when I say like this is the spine of it, this is barely the part of the movie, because what really this movie is Ted, you would love this movie just because I think Linklater's close to your age, and you're always talking about your specific tyranny of nostalgia. This movie is about him, all the little tiny minutia. It's almost like an essay of growing up in Houston in 1969 and all the little things he dealt with and all the pop culture he went with and dealing with his sisters and dealing with his dad and going to Astroworld.
So again, another director.
Yes, and all the things I was complaining about with all these other, being too literal with all the autobiographical stuff, Linklater's the one that nails it. Is
that due to format? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Where was the streaming?
Well, that book is on Netflix. That weirds me out too, because if you saw the Amazon show Undone, the Bob Sebastian animation stuff, the rotoscoping technique they use is just getting more and more sophisticated and more gorgeous. So like comparing this to Waking Life is just getting better and better and better. You can even compare it to Scanner Darkly, it's getting better and better. And I don't know why more people haven't seen this movie. It is amazing.
But with streaming, you have that short window when they release the film, and if it's not top 10, if people don't really connect with it immediately, and it just gets shuffled off.
There's always this feeling that Netflix buries a movie, but what does happen is it just doesn't promote it. It's not really a burying.
Or it doesn't connect with audiences. And obviously Netflix is the mainstream streamer.
And do you think?
Really quickly, as much as I want to say this is an amazing movie, as we know, like Linklater being one of my favorite filmmakers, and I love so many of his movies. And the thing I love about his movies is, as amazing as it is, Pauline Kael said this about him years after she retired. It was one of the few times she granted an opinion on a filmmaker after her retirement. Linklater has that Lubitsch level light touch. He does not try hard. And yet these things magically come together, and like you find this moment usually, and this one has it, like at the end where just like there's like one line that brings the whole movie together. And this one has that. What were you going to say, Ted?
Well, I was going to say, do you think Linklater and Baumbach and Soderbergh are? Do you think it behooves them to get to make all these projects because they get funding from streaming service, but then they get disappeared and they get lost?
You're running the gamut right here, just because like Night Noise was like $130 million movie. Noah Baumbach got to make $130 million movie, and Soderbergh is also another great example. He always talks about, look, I would love everything that plays on a screen, but to him at the end of the day, format doesn't matter. Just as content trumps format. The fact that he gets to make the movie.
They get to do things, and maybe they wouldn't. But if he went the normal route and it gets dumped in the theater and nobody sees it, I mean, what's better? I mean, are we apple oranges here? Is one way better? I mean, we should be happy that Netflix and Amazon are funding these.
Yeah,
guys?
Totally, because they are funding more. I think the argument is if they go to a normal studio route, it just doesn't get made. Two, this is the streaming question that a lot of people are asking themselves of like, look, if we put this buried into a library that's available in perpetuity, is it better? And I think I'd say yes.
Here's the problem that I have with that line of thinking, and that yes, it is great that some of these filmmakers are getting budgets, and honestly, I think something like Glass Onion may have been more successful for me if they hadn't had such a high production budget. But the problem is now when these films get White Noise gets $130 million, and then Netflix doesn't see returns on it, then that's the excuse or the reason that they stop funding these things.
But they're already funding Noah Baumbach's next movie.
I mean, aren't they locked into a contract with Baumbach?
I don't know, but
I just, I don't know what. I just have to break down and get some streaming services or come over to Shane's house and watch them at Shane's house.
Really, I think the answer is some sort of mixed format release where it gets a theatrical release, and they kind of sniffed this with Army of the Dead and with Glass Onion and a few of these others where you give it a couple of weeks in the theater, and that's a trailer for your streaming release. That gives you all this free publicity, plus sometimes millions of dollars. I mean, it was suggested that they lost possibly $50-60 million by not giving Glass Onion more of a theatrical run than it's weeks. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is anecdotal too much, just because like this is the conversation they're having in LA about all this stuff, especially post-COVID, where it's clear like these streamers run on their metrics. They have better numbers than anybody else. So they know like if we put this in theaters, what this would help, and they were doing it for years too, although they were doing it with things like The Irishman or things like so it's just I get the feeling they want to. But I mean, and in theory, obviously as film people, I'd rather see Netflix movies in a theater.
Yeah, and I think clearly HBO Max has seen the writing on the wall with that, and they've pretty much cleared the decks of anything that might go streaming first.
Hey, Ted,
and then you see what happened with Smile, which I actually thought was not a great film, but made a ton of money. It was originally slated to be streaming.
They went to theatrical. You know what HBO Max did with Soderbergh's next movie? They decided to make it's the Magic Mike's third movie, and it's going to be in theaters because
the first one made $180 million.
But it's a theatrical experience.
That's given that that's going to do well at the theater.
I think that was originally going to be on HBO Max, and they were like, no. Theaters.
That was the original intention, but that was when they were buying up a lot of properties for that streamer because they were trying to get subscribers. And I don't think that model, and you even see what's happening with Netflix now, when they're losing subscribers globally, and then they're also trying to
they did a turnaround in their last quarterly report.
Cut down on password sharing. I mean, there's a finite number of people, and at this point, they've grown to pretty much as big as they're ever going to be able to get.
Yeah, it's not infinite growth is not a sustainable strategy. Finishing announcement. Are we doing the everything everywhere all at once?
We can, but before we move on, interestingly about Richard Linklater, I literally read an article yesterday about the 100, and I can't even remember where I read this, but it was the 100 greatest comedies this century. So since 2000, did you know what number one was? You could probably have a pretty good
Dazed
guess.
and Confused.
No, newer.
Really?
Everybody Wants Some.
Wow.
Everybody Wants Some.
Yeah.
Huh. Which is the
Fascinating.
spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that his reputation is high, and if he makes a film, and I think you could put this in the category with like Boyhood, where it's something that he's been doing for a while and it's close to his heart, and obviously you loved it. It's a film that I think film fans should like, and it just gets buried.
Yeah, I per your point, Ted, his new movie's in the can. I think is already finished, and he's trying to outdo Boyhood. He's doing a Sondheim musical that's supposed to take like 20 years to film. Maybe longer. Yeah, like so he's still getting
Well, hopefully, for people like me that want these, I want all the Linklater films on my shelf. Criterion.
Criterion seems to have that thing with Netflix.
That's again though. I'm like 4 or 5 films behind on Soderbergh. It's killing me.
Yeah.
I just finally got to see Power of the Dog because of Criterion. That was an interesting watch.
Wow, that last year's big Oscar.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about my top movies made me feel a little better about them, but I did have that feeling that like it was the middle block kind of blended together on my list. But
yeah, I definitely felt that. And the 2 or 3 standouts that I had, they were really in not so much order. It's just that I watched Banshees maybe in a time that I was ready for it, and maybe that goes to what Ted is saying. You get an opportunity, you have to be in the headspace for that. You have to be ready for that moment, and so if it takes a few months for me to see something, then maybe that's the best way to do it. But of course, streaming, for me to find, like if I want to go find Apollo 10.5 tonight, I'm going to have to actually go in the search bar and type in Apollo 10.5.
Oh no, in the search bar.
Well, I mean, you did, Ted? Did you see Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Oh yeah, opening night.
Ted and I saw it together. Actually.
You did, okay.
And one of the person, one of our party walked out. He couldn't take it.
It was a really funny. It was a really funny.
I didn't know it happened.
No. What happened was, and you get it, just where he wasn't properly prepped for the movie. Like the maximalism of like the beginning just started at him, and he's like got up and he's like, I'm gonna go watch Venom.
Oh
yeah!
Oh no!
I can understand.
Or was it Morbius? It was
Morbius.
Oh
yeah,
no!
Morbius.
That was Morbius, was it?
Yeah.
Oh no!
And I'm like, I didn't even know what happened afterwards. I was like, really?
Well, it's not for everyone. To be honest, both of you liked it much more than I did, and I'm not saying I didn't like it.
Well, Ted didn't like it as much.
So
guess what?
I thought you were
so
you were in the same boat with
achingly
Smith.
quaint. And
Quaint?
There were, yeah, absolutely. And there were obviously things that I really enjoyed about it, but I also think that this is one of those type of movies. And I just think of Birdman, and I was listening to a podcast the other day about how if you went back and let's say, for instance, we went back 2 years ago and we pulled out our top 10 list, how would we reorder those based upon, how we feel about those films now? And I think, if Everything Everywhere All at Once is your number one and your number one, I wonder if you'll still feel that way in 3 years.
It's not my number one though.
Okay, but then I think you and I agree. I think we both had a good time with it. I did enjoy the movie.
I think there's David Fincher has a thing where he thinks the Oscars should switch to where they vote on movies 10 years ago. So like you have 10
they
years
could
to
do
sit
both.
on it.
I think that would actually make for a really interesting comparison. Because there would be things, obviously we all realize Crash would fall off, but then, there are things like Birdman that I'm like, I just don't know if that holds up. And another one, and I know Ted hates me for this, but I think The Artist really is a one-trick pony.
Well, I see this came up, and you can go back to our Sight and Sound poll thing, but the Jean Dielman being put as number one, like Oscar winners have this issue too, where if you're not in love with the movie and you're told it's the best, it puts a target on that movie's back.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost a disservice.
Well,
but
that is true.
How did this movie, this Mishowi film, with such craziness and goofiness, get such attention and did so well?
It's almost like you should ask someone who liked the movie what they thought of it.
But no, I mean,
it's his number one. We should at least let him go.
Look,
let's hear, because I don't think we disagree with you.
No,
I just want to hear why you think that it's better than anything you saw.
This is the kind of film that I'm, accustomed to and like, and the Daniels, are just they're wearing. I think they're wearing their indie alternative on their sleeve with both their films. Like, look at here, we're gonna go wow, and and a piece.
I ask again,
but
Ted.
the fact
Do,
that it
do you
crossed,
like movies?
but the fact that it crossed over. Only thing I want to. Can I say something very daring?
Go for it. Let's do it. Let's go.
I hope you do.
I hope you do.
Maybe this film did well and it was accepted by a lot of people that normally wouldn't accept it because they've been trained by the MCU movies.
I think that's totally fine. I think RRR.
That's less daring than you led us to believe.
Okay.
RRR and Everything Everywhere All at Once have a lot in common to where I just need to see
absolutely.
some fucking imagination on screen. And I need, and like, yes, maybe it's a kitchen sink movie. The maximalism sometimes is much. I think maybe it has 5 endings or 5 emotional climaxes at the end. But Jesus, these are great filmmakers who really put everything into it, and they almost like completely make it a homogenous whole. Like,
I agree. I can't argue with you.
and it's an emotional. It's got an ethos to it. Like that speech about kindness is actually a smart strategy, and having optimism is a smart strategy. Just like I'm sick of per my Tar rant. Like this is the type of ethos I need to see in a movie.
And I'm so happy for Michelle Yeoh. I mean, she's again, it's one of these actresses.
You have a movie that's ostensibly. It's got a very pedestrian, quirky plot line, but it's also, you could say it's also in the form of The Matrix, but you can also say it has parodies of Wong Kar-wai and Ratatouille and 2001 inside of it, but they also make it work, and it questions existence and depression in interesting ways,
No.
and
family
and lineage and.
I'm surprised it's not my number one. I just The Whale and Northmen moved me more and got to me more. So that's why it edged over those.
That's fair.
But that said, everything you said is so correct. And it's so inventive.
It's
almost
inventive.
almost to the point of like, whoa, slow down, honey. You know.
Well, isn't that what a second and a third viewing are for? Have
Yeah.
you seen it a second time?
Yes, I watched this. I had to see. I don't want to admit this here, but we ate dinner before that, and I didn't have an app, so I can't accept doses of chunks.
Oh, Ted, do you
And
love movies or do you love sleep?
He also fell asleep during Nightmare Alley last year, and then later
Oh my
realized
God.
that he really loved the film.
I know he was. I saw Nightmare Alley with him. We talked about it.
But,
afterwards.
Maybe
yeah.
you're the one putting him to sleep.
Oh shit! I was sitting next to you. And
Yes,
everything.
that's right. So, but no, it's I wanted to say something about. Yeah, I'm just so shocked. Like a lot of general audiences took it in.
I was so excited to talk to people about the dildo fight afterwards.
You know, a dildo fight does. And honestly, I will say this. I did see it later than a lot of people, including you two. And there's a decent possibility, I'm willing to admit there's a decent possibility that when I go to see it, I've got my arms crossed saying, okay, well, now impress me.
Well, was there
Because
also
all
too many
you
like
people-
too many people going like, oh, this movie's so edgy, it's got a dildo fight
and
in
it wasn't just you, and this is kind of what Ted is saying. It was common audiences, general audiences were really liking this. Hey, we really like that movie, and so when I go to see it, I already have this expectation of, hey, it's working for cinephiles and for general audiences, and then things like the dildo fight, I just felt like this is just not what I was led to believe. It felt corny to me.
It's a very silly movie, though.
Well,
On
but
purpose.
RRR is silly, and I think because it's trying so hard,
Well, they had the
and
farts in
has
their previous film.
Well, I mean, again, possibly if I'd sat with it with you two and not fallen asleep during the movie, maybe I would have. It would be higher on my list. I don't know, but I do feel like maybe there was a little bit of defense for me because so many people had told me they liked it, and to be honest, some people whose opinion doesn't really carry a lot of weight. So when some people are like, "Hey, I can't wait to see this Morbius," and then say, "Oh, I also liked." Everything Everywhere All at Once, then
Smith,
it's like,
don't-
well, your opinion is suspect.
Don't let Chuck Palahniuk fans ruin Chuck Palahniuk for you. Okay?
Okay, that's fair. And I guess in this situation, you're the Chuck Palahniuk fan.
Oh God! Wow. What have I become?
But you guys loved it, and I wanted to love it. And maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. It's hard to say. But I did like it. But for it to be number one, I just wonder in 5 years or 10 years.
Well,
when
Well,
we
there's too much martial arts
reevaluate.
because you're not. Aaron doesn't like martial arts films.
Oh, I do not. You're right. All right.
You don't
And-
like horror. I'm a hipster, and you don't like martial arts.
I'm just saying.
Oh, I
You guys are trying to peg me,
admittedly,
I'm gonna-
there is way too much fucking
tit for
kicking
tat,
and
you know.
everything everywhere. There's a lot of kicking, and about the second scene where there's just and this is the John Wick thing or any of these films
There's
where
a
it's
Bullet
built
Train was for
upon.
me.
Bullet Train doesn't have as much. It has too many. I'm going to be honest. But when there are that many fight sequences, I do tend to tune out, admittedly. But I would say, Ted, in that same vein, what was your favorite animated film and your favorite horror film from 2022?
Well, I could say Barbarian. I could say, well, probably Barbarian is good.
That
Or-
might be mine too.
Men, is that considered horror? Or
Yeah.
They were definitely.
That's a folk horror movie.
Crimes of the Future because of Cronenberg. It was
Yeah,
And then I the Superpowers Justice League. I was just surprised how fun that was. And of course I'm partial to comic book stuff, but I did see that. I still have. I'm sorry to say I haven't kept up with Pixar ever since the Post Lasseter one. Seems like I've kind of lost my attention to them.
Smith is our resident of the kids movies. Did you see Puss in Boots?
I have, yeah.
Is it good?
I
I heard good things.
I felt like it holds up better for me as far as the the overall storyline, and I felt like Minions seemed really tired. Like they've taken an idea, and it's almost like the fourth or the fifth Ice Age movie, where it's just like, okay, we're just keeping this up for the sake of keeping it up.
Because kids like the same thing.
Kids want to come out for these sequels. And Puss in Boots didn't seem as tired, and I actually think that possibly that's why it's has more legs. But then Pixar, with the films that they put out this year that were streaming only, were really solid, and then Lightyear was extraordinarily disappointing. So
I
it
still
wasn't
don't see the point
terrible.
of that.
It's not terrible.
We haven't talked about Pinocchio.
Which one?
Yeah, there's several. Yeah,
The Razzie one?
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Or the
was gonna
Guillermo del
come up.
Toro is what you're referring to.
yeah.
I want to end by pointing out what I teased earlier, that actually I've watched these I think maybe 4 times in a row, or not in a row, but 4 times. If I had to pick my favorite filmed entertainment of the year, I'd say the last 2 episodes of the FX show The Bear. Like that series did not need to be that good, and the last 2 episodes in particular blew my mind.
No, I haven't watched that, but that sounds exciting. Now I have to not like it because you did.
Well,
No, I'm
All
joking.
right, guys. This is our year-end episode. I want to go ahead and warn you guys. Next year, you're going to want to come up with lists in order.
yes,
They don't have to
Okay,
be in order, but
we'll
next
come
time.
up with lists. We'll be glad to do that, but I
No
think
math.
we can't have any curveballs thrown at us right before we start the podcast.
I was told there would be no math this debate. Yes. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Smith, Ted, thank you for being on this episode.
Glad to do it.
I love movies.
Bye, Ted.